Ladies and gentlemen, we're back with Real Deal Talk. I am fired up, and I know I say that every time, but today I'm really fired up because we have the guest that we've been waiting for it took an entire year to book this amazing guest. A year it took to find a hole in the schedule that she could fill with Real Deal Talk. 1 year, almost, right?
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, Melissa Higginbottom, the queen bee of Pathfinder Ministry at Awaken Church. Amazing wife to Colin Higginbottom, amazing mom. The list goes on. And new, what do we call it, lead pastor of Boise, Idaho.
How wild!
All right, we're going to get into that a little bit, but but hold on. Let me give a word of our sponsor. I've started doing this recently, by the way, because I realized what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Real Deal Sleep pays the bills.
True.
Right?
Right.
So there's no budget with Real Deal Talk because this is just a passion project for me right now. So I'm like, I got to at least mention the mattress company. So the mattress company, Real Deal Sleep, that's our company, you guys know. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody for watching and listening. Everywhere I'm going, I'm getting DMs, texts, and people telling me. I can't tell you how humbled I am, how thankful I am, how grateful I am that you're actually tuning in, watching and listening. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, guys. I really, I can't thank you enough. So, but if you want to support the show, come refer somebody for a mattress, buy a mattress, get on the website, realdealsleep.com. Once again, realdealsleep.com. But listen, write a review. If you're moved by the show, if somebody's inspired you or anything's inspired, you're loving anything, please write a review. Write a review, share it, put it up on your socials. I can't thank you enough for tuning in. So here we go.
So good. We bought 3. We just bought 3 Real Deal mattresses.
Yeah, Real Deal mattresses. So they got a dual sleep system, right?
Yep.
And then you loved it so much, and Colin's like, could this help Josiah's recovery for soccer? Because he's pretty much a professional soccer player, right? Pretty much
on his way to
on
that,
his way. Okay, he's phenomenal. Let's put it that way. He's a phenom, and here he is at this
Barcelona Residential Academy.
Okay, so he's like, can you ship this to Arizona? So I shipped one. I said, absolutely. So I shipped a sleep system to 15-year-old Josiah, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. It took me till I was 40 years old to have what Josiah has. Colin's like, I don't care. I'm gonna buy it for him.
I'm gonna invest in.
Yeah, because then Colin sent me a picture of the mattress he was sleeping on. If we can even call it that. But listen, I'm not surprised because that's what I was on when I was a teenager. That's normal, and it was absolutely god awful. Anyway, not anymore, right? How much is he loving it?
He's loving it, and his back is 100% better.
Oh, my God. So, guys, ladies and gentlemen, Real Deal Sleep. You heard me right here. We can ship it all over the country.
There you go.
All right. So, nice. I like the plug. Good job. All right. So, here, back to you. Melissa Higginbottom. I love that name, by the way. All right. So, Melissa, here we go. I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to this.
I must have really loved the man with the name.
No, that's true.
Higginbottom.
Right.
To take that name on.
It's something.
My maiden name has 5 letters. And this one, I don't even know how many letters Higginbottom has.
Yeah, it's the Higginbottoms.
Higginbottoms.
Yeah, the bottoms. It's got a nice ring to it, though, when you get used to it. You know what I mean? So all right, so here we go. Are you ready? Are you ready? I'm so fired up about this interview. Here we go. Because, ladies and gentlemen, Melissa is literally one of the most respected women on planet Earth. Not just on planet Earth, but not just the church, but planet Earth. But in the church, Awaken Church, she is so beloved by so many, so inspired. She inspires so many people, especially the women at Awaken Church. Like, and what I'm excited about today, because they already love her. They love her. They respect her. Wow. But nobody really knows the full story, the full testimony of where Melissa came from. Like, where was she before she took over the world at Pathfinders, the Pathfinder ministry, which you guys hear me talk about a lot. And by the way, let me go there real quick.
Yeah.
You know where this podcast was birthed, and I got goosebumps as I said it, was the Pathfinder program.
Yep.
That's what encouraged me to step into my calling, which is what the Pathfinder program does, is it unlocks people, right? And the whole program is designed around stepping into who God made you to be and stepping into your calling, your gifts. Right. And I've always wanted to do this, and I just never, frankly, had the guts to do it. And then when I came to Pathfinder, and I have all these people believing in me, praying for me, encouraging me to step into my thing, I'm like, and that's what launched Real Deal Talk was Pathfinder
So
program.
incredible.
I'm not even kidding you. I was showing the logos to my Pathfinders in class to help me pick which logo to go with. That's how much, right?
Yeah.
So just,
wow.
I didn't even plan on saying that because I completely forgot about it. And here I am with the founder of the Pathfinder program, which is the reason.
Yeah.
I mean, think about this.
Think about that. That's wild. And you're in your convergence. This is
Correct.
This is something you were born and destined to do.
100%.
100%.
And convergence.
Yeah.
Go back to Colin's interview, guys, because we go into convergence in detail. If you're right now, you're wondering, hey, what's that word? And I'm not going to go too far. I don't want to ruin any of his thunder from his interview because it was phenomenal. But convergence basically is, in the lane that you're supposed to be in with the people that you're supposed to be doing life with. Basically, living in your calling. Right?
Exactly. 100%.
Who are all our purpose and calling.
Yeah.
Why we're here.
This Making a difference.
Yeah. Unbelievable, and we're just getting started with the Pathfinder stories because me and a couple of Pathfinders are teaming up right now. Yes. We got a little something up our sleeve, so we're just this is nothing. This is child's play. All right, so Melissa, let's go back.
Okay.
All right. Born and raised. Where were you born and raised? Let's start there.
Yep. So I was actually born in Oregon.
Okay.
And I was born to a 16-year-old mom who was dating a 28-year-old guy and got pregnant and just wasn't able to carry out the duties of motherhood well. So we got taken to adoption agency. And actually, the crazy story is I was taken to the adoption agency. And I heard this all later in life because I was obviously adopted. That's fast forward.
How much later in life?
When I was 18 and old enough to...
You didn't know until you were 18?
I knew I was adopted my whole life.
Yeah.
My parents, who I still call my real parents because, they raised me. They're my parents still.
Right.
Obviously. And they were the ones my mom and dad. They always told me I was adopted. It was always like, we got to pick you. We wanted to make sure we had a girl. I had 4 brothers. Or like, we wanted a girl, so we got to pick you. And it was always a big thing. So I always knew I was adopted. There was no shame around it. It was amazing. But I didn't know the backstory of the adoption until I was old enough to understand and really comprehend like what was behind the story behind my biological mom. And so I found out that she just could not handle the duties of motherhood, what 16-year-old could, without the dad around, even though she had a very supportive family. So was at the adoption center and just was like, you know what, I can't do this. Went back to the adoption center to pick me up, brought me back to the house with the grandparents. She had a twin sister, siblings younger than her. And then still it was just too much. And she really realized like, wow, I want this baby girl to have a chance to have siblings her own age, to be able to grow up in a family that could give her everything that I could never give her. It was quite the scandal at the time. My dad was the mayor of the little town Silverton in Oregon, so it was quite a scandal. I found out later.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second here, because I was just going to ask, what's with the dad? What's with?
So my biological dad, who then I did meet later in life, he was just his 70s. He was the 70s, just living free.
Yep.
And had gotten multiple women pregnant at the same time, I found out later. So he ended up moving to Georgia because he just couldn't handle everything that was coming his way. Yeah. So he left, and but they knew who he was and they remembered him. So then I was able to get in contact him later, which is such a crazy story too. But it just came down to them realizing this isn't the best situation for a girl and we want the best for her. So it took me back to the adoption agency and say, please find a home for her within 24 hours before we, second guess again. Yeah. And so that's when my parents got the call and just felt like it was the right thing and adopted me when I was 21 months old. Wow. And took me in as their own, like very much as their own. You said mayor, was that just being funny, like he was actually, because he was so popular? No, so it was a little town. So my biological grandfather was the sheriff and the mayor of this little town, Silverton, Oregon. Super, super cute little town in Oregon. And it was it was his daughter then. So then it kind of became a big scandal. And I just always thought that was just this funny part of the story of like, wow, that's where my like competitive like genes come from. And
no kidding.
Yeah. So found all that out when I was 21 and I had my first baby, and I wanted to know the history of like the biological history. So I knew if there's anything having kids that I needed to know about raising my children health-wise. And so I ended up then meeting the whole biological side of the family. It was just a whole nother wild journey of life.
All right, so go back, because you said it at 18 is when you knew you were adopted.
Correct. Yes, my parents always told me all growing up.
Okay. Give me your thought process growing up, knowing you were adopted. Tell me the moments that you went through, like, were you really want, because I've always wondered this.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to know your biological parents from day, like you're always on the search, or did you know already?
Great question.
Do you know what I mean?
I had no interest. I was so happy. My parents were phenomenal.
Yeah.
It was, like I said, it was always a celebration. Like, you were adopted. This is so exciting. You know, we got to choose you. They always joke, we were stuck with your brothers, you know, but it was like, there was so much life spoken around it. I never thought anything else. And again, until I was 18 and heard some more detail. And then I just hear that story and I'm like, wow, my biological parents, they were going through a lot.
Yeah.
No wonder they couldn't keep me. And actually super grateful that they gave me a chance to grow up in the life that I was given. But I didn't have any interest in meeting them until, like I said, I was pregnant with my first baby. And then I realized they start asking you all the questions on all the forms of your medical and your family's medical history. Yeah. And I was like, oh, wait, this technically wouldn't be the biological medical history of my mom and dad.
Right.
It would be my biological parents.
Yeah.
So then that's when I started realizing I think I'd love to meet them and hear anything, if there's any information I could know.
That's what
just
sparked that.
That's what sparked
was
it.
The background information that you had to give.
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about this real quick. Because now, would you say, because I hear a lot that adopted children always are in the search. I hear that a lot. Like,
interesting.
Would you say because your parents were so amazing that you just didn't even say, "Nah, I'm good"? Do you think
probably.
That's the difference?
They gave me such a good life. I was so happy. I was not treated any different than my siblings. Nobody knew I was adopted until my parents would tell them. So, like, I just had I felt I fit in, and I loved my family. They put me in dance class at a young age. All I ever wanted to do was dance, and they gave me every opportunity to just dance and dance and dance and dance. So I just had so much purpose in life. I personally didn't. I've heard that too.
Yeah.
I personally didn't have that drive to meet them until it was like, I want to know what's going on in case I need some medical history. And that was really the only thing that drove it.
And so none of your friends knew that you were adopted in, let's say, elementary?
No, they all knew. Everybody knew, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't...
Did anybody make fun of you for being adopted? No.
No, not at all. No, maybe I'm a different experience than some people have.
Yeah.
And it's not like it was even talked about a lot. Everybody knew, but it wasn't like... It wasn't in conversation very much, and maybe because my parents were so healthy and I was in a healthy place.
And so they already had biological you say two sons, or
they had 2 older brothers and 2 younger brothers.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did they treat you?
Great. I don't know. I guess I just don't know that there would really be any difference.
Were they protective of you?
Oh, yeah.
Like typical
older brothers, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know what? I didn't even really... I didn't know this.
That I was adopted?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not something that comes out in, like, conversation.
Well, obviously.
But it's
already
backstory. Here you go.
Yeah, we're already tapping in here. Like, literally the first thing out of your mouth, okay, I was adopted. I was dropped off at 6. She was 16.
She was 16.
Which is crazy in itself.
That's crazy in itself.
Okay, so during the first childhood years, because you're in the same town, right?
No, so my parents adopted me and then moved me to Puyallup, Washington.
God, okay.
So my parents were living in Oregon, adopted me from Oregon, and then moved to Washington because they were already in the middle of a job transition. It was a beautiful, divine moment to move to a new state as a family. And
because your mom, biological mom, was still in Oregon.
Correct.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Right.
Still to this day, that's then when I met them later, they were still in that little town in Oregon.
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
Wild.
Wild.
So then you moved to Washington.
Yep.
So this is pretty much right after they adopted you?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. There's so much. I think we did live in Oregon for like a short season, but not enough to remember. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Basically within, I think, a year of adopting me, we moved to Washington sometime in that time frame.
Okay. And then, now your parents, when did they get you into dance? And how did they get you to dance? Did you say you wanted to dance, or they just put you right in there?
I don't know how. I think I will never forget going into dance and being in the studio and like literally like lighting up everything in me.
Yeah.
Loved everything about it.
Wow.
And I'll never forget my first recital, Little Zebra. And I guess I was out there. My mom said I was out there. You know, there's the marks to stand where you walk out and you have to stand, you know, where you're supposed to stand. And the girls were not standing where they were supposed to.
Oh, no.
So I felt the need to make sure that they moved all to their spot. Like four and a half.
Oh, my God.
You know?
Ordering them around?
Yes. She said I was ordering them around, trying to tell the music people just don't start the music. Like, don't start the music. We got to get in place.
Oh, my gosh.
So
it all makes sense.
I'll never forget it with my Little Zebra. Never forget it.
All makes sense. Tell me you have videos of this. Do you have videos of this?
I hope so. As we're getting ready to pack up and move to Boise, I found a whole bunch of tapes, VHS tapes, that I'm like, oh, Crystal, we've got to figure out. Crystal's our personal assistant.
Yeah.
We've got to figure out if there's a way to get these on something digital so we can see. So.
Oh my gosh.
Wouldn't that be crazy?
Those are the tapes from you dancing?
I don't know. They are from me dancing. I don't know if they go back that far.
Yeah, far.
But I mean, in my mind, I'll never forget that. And then from that moment on, that stage, from that, you know.
And you start, was it, what age did it start? 3, 2?
4. I think it was 4.
Okay, 4.
Yeah.
And so since you can actually remember, do you actually remember being on the stage ordering the kids around?
Oh,
or no?
Kind of.
Okay.
I don't know if I remember more because my mom reminds me of the funny story, or if I remember. But it sounds so much like me. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
And so any other sports are literally just dance?
Just dance. I never wanted to do anything else.
Wow.
Never. I just...
Did your friends try to get you into sports?
No, because all my friends were in the dance world.
Oh, really?
So I started in ballet and tap.
Yeah.
You know, you take the half-hour ballet, half-hour tap, the little girls.
Yep.
And then you just add on. I take jazz. We didn't have hip-hop yet. This was back in the day. I am 40. I just turned 48.
Oh.
So hip-hop was still only on the streets.
That's true.
Break dancing and maybe not appropriate.
Yes, Run DMC.
In our family.
Right? I think it was when Run DMC was.
Yeah.
They were one of the first.
So there was no hip-hop in the studio yet. So dance was jazz, tap, ballet, and then
contemporary lyrical.
A little bit. Lyrical still a newer thing.
It is.
Also.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and modern dance is still a newer thing too. So it was basically ballet, tap, and jazz, and now
it's quite an expensive venture, which
incredible
because our daughter is basically you.
Yes.
The exact parallel of you. And I there's a debit coming out of my account every week for $200, $300, $400, and I'm like, what is this?
And then you got competition fees and
uniforms, competition fees, and I'm like,
yeah.
We got to be part of the business motivation is to be able to pay for Jacqueline's dance, for gosh sakes, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy, but listen, with pleasure.
If she loves it, it's so worth it.
Oh my gosh,
so grateful to my parents for investing countless and countless amount of hours. My mom backstage doing my hair, doing my makeup, costume changes, things like that, where it's a very time consuming thing. One of our family summer vacations every year was in Seaside, Oregon. We would drive down to Seaside, Oregon for a big dance competition.
Yep.
And that was our family vacation. My brothers hated it.
Oh, really?
Until they were teenagers.
Oh, of course.
That all of a sudden, being around a dance competition with girls in leotards wasn't so bad.
They were loving it. When are we going to do another competition? What? Yeah. Loving it.
So they hated it. There's still jokes to this day. My brother actually just took his family up to Seaside to vacation and had kind of like spaced and forgot. And he saw the Dance Magic like truck and the signs. And he was like, oh my God, I'm having flashbacks. He like sent a text to the family. I'm having flashbacks. Oh my gosh. Like, so yeah, that was just my life, my love, my passion in the studio after school all night, almost every night. Like,
yeah, it's a lot, but when you have passion for it, it is and let me tell you something, as far as the development that it gives you, go down the list here, and ladies and gentlemen, I'd say this a lot on the podcast here. If your child isn't in something like sports, dance, you got to get them into something. Right now, I'm not going to
chess club,
anything,
yes,
anything where they're accepted by, and they have structure and they have discipline and they're taught respect and honor, teamwork, respect. Just because I'm seeing so many of Jacqueline's friends, they're in nothing and they're a mess. And I'm going to say this I don't care. I'm going to say it on the air. She's got friends that are they're not good.
They just don't have purpose. And it's same as us adults. If we're not connected to a purpose, then our life becomes meaningless and a mess, and we're not doing much good for ourselves or society. Same thing for kids.
So many kids right now are depressed. They're putting them on a medication. Especially with what just happened the last 2 years of locking them down and masking them up, and we'll go down this route for a while, but it's really sad. It's frightening at this point. So folks, get your child no matter what. And here's the thing that I hate when I hear is that the parents are like, oh well, I'm just too busy. I can't get them there. I'm working. I got to do this, and I get it. Believe me, we get it. It's hard.
I get it, but I also wonder because my parents had 4 boys and me, and they all played sports.
It's doable.
So, I mean, there's moments it's probably really hard and impossible. Or you get help. I mean, I remember so many times riding in, you carpool, riding in my friend's car with her family and going to the studio. My mom and dad didn't drive me every day, but then they took their turn to,
Where there's a will, there's a way,
yeah.
number one. But number two, parents, you have to realize how important it is because it will dictate your child's life. Their entire way that they grow up as an adult is going to be dictating on whether or not you got them into something or not.
Well, and I learned even then because, to be honest, I wasn't the best. When I was younger, I was not the best dancer, but I loved it. And I would practice and practice and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse. And I remember I was 10 years old and this girl, Amber, comes into the studio for the first time. And she's just so good, but she hadn't really danced before. And I was so mad. And I was like, that's it. I am not going to have her be better than me. And I remember that moment where I just next level stepped into just, I'm going to take extra classes. I'm going to get, private lessons, do what I need to do to where 2 years later, then I beat her at national championships.
No way.
Yep.
And so hold on, what age was that?
12.
At 12, where the switch flipped?
It was probably just after 10
where
the switch flipped, and then it took a little while of extra training. But then I'll remember I was probably 12
and it was because of Amber.
Because of Amber.
Does she know this? Have you ever talked to her?
I don't know. I haven't talked to her since junior high, so I don't know. Because she didn't stay in dance. It wasn't her passion. It wasn't her love.
It was too easy for her.
Yeah, that was probably it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So it didn't come easy for me, but then it came, and then after that, it just skyrocketed.
Wow. So Amber, basically, we owe Amber a big thank you, don't we?
Thank you, Amber.
Right? For sparking you to turn it up a notch,
wow.
right?
Never really thought about it.
Yeah.
You're right.
She made an impact on your life that echoed into eternity of your life and everybody that's experiencing Melissa as we know her.
That's wild.
Think about it.
Yeah, it's
right?
true. Very true.
All right, so what was your favorite type of dance?
Jazz.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, jazz, for sure. I love ballet, but you had to take ballet because it's the base of all dance. I didn't have a ballet body, so I knew I would never be a prima ballerina. But I knew that, and I was okay with it.
Yeah.
So definitely jazz, yeah.
And what's funny is that's Jacqueline's.
Is it really?
It is.
Oh, but she could be a ballerina if she wanted to.
She could. And by the way, wait until you see her twisted. I asked them to make an exception to let her try out for the more advanced dancing at 11.
Good.
I said just let her try out.
Yeah.
Because they wanted her in the child thing where they're just marching around.
No.
I'm like, she can handle it. And because she picks up choreography really quickly. And they're like, okay, we'll let her try out.
She killed it.
Guess who's in every dance with all the adults? She's the youngest one in almost all of the dances, the advanced dances.
Wow.
She's the youngest one.
I believe it.
Everybody else is 11, then like either 20 plus. I can't.
So
I literally have bought tickets for like 6 of the shows so far. I'm going to lose my mind.
Yeah.
Seeing her on the stage dancing. I'm going to lose my mind.
That's the best.
I can't wait. All right. So let's go back to childhood real quick. Give me anything that and I'm going to ask this bluntly, because every childhood involves experimentation, drinking, drugs. Were any of your was it a Christian household? Did the brothers, 4 brothers, stay out of trouble? Did they get into anything? Was there any drama? Give me something.
Yeah, honestly, we had such a great childhood, and I was so busy and so focused it was a Christian household, so we grew up going to church every Sunday, non-negotiable. My dad was on the board at church. We were very involved. We loved it. We had a super fun church, which helped.
Yeah.
Who let me dance. Some churches don't believe in dance or certain types of dance or think you need to do a certain thing this way. We had a place similar to Twisted, but it was a little more traditional Scrooge.
Yeah.
But I was able to be in that and dance. And so my passion was so much celebrated.
Oh, that's great.
All the way through junior high. So I never had anything, no big issues. I mean, always little dramas. Then we moved back to Oregon, North Bend, Coos Bay, Oregon, in high school. So when I was going into high school.
Was it a job transfer again?
Yep. My dad worked for a Weyerhaeuser. He started out as a janitor in Weyerhaeuser out of college and worked his way all the way up to vice president.
Wow.
So, and this was in another promotion. They brought him down to Coos Bay, Oregon to take over the mill down there.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a transition because then that was the biggest job source, the biggest company in that little town, another little small town.
Yep.
Going from a bigger city to a small town was a little hard, especially because then the quality of dance teaching wasn't as great.
Yeah.
I was actually like the best tap dancer there. They had me start teaching classes.
No kidding.
Which was fun and I loved it, but I didn't develop my tap anymore.
Didn't grow much more.
We found a great studio about 2 hours away where my mom would take me on
Saturdays. Kidding me?
To get a little bit further along. But that was a big transition. It was hard coming in as like, oh, this is like
Were you bummed?
The boss's
Were you
girl. Like, thought I was just this snooty little.
Oh, really?
Before that was a hard transition for me. I think that was the first time I really came against some real like rejection and some hard times and some like, wow, people,
And this is what,
people
15,
might love
16?
me, cheering me on. Yeah, sophomore year. So I got my driver's license there. So I must have been about 15. Yeah, going into high school.
This is the first time you experienced any form of like you said, rejection or going through little trials and tribulations, as you call it.
Yeah.
Right?
Beyond the typical girl,
course.
But the real stuff of like, people not liking you, people saying stuff, people, and then just the transition of leaving all my dance community, going down there. But then I'll never forget, just obviously got right on the dance team.
Yeah.
And like our first performance, like, people just freaking out.
They were
because
like, whoa.
I was obviously, because I had come from a bigger town and had worked my ass off, I was the best dancer.
You can say it.
And I loved it so much. Like, I just lit up my face. Like, I glow.
Wow.
And my face is just glowing. They're like, she is so happy. Like, nobody had taught them, like, stage presence.
Yeah.
They had just learned the moves. And so, so that opened up a whole new world. And then it was really cool at that time. A professional dance teacher from Spain ended up moving to this little small town, random, and takes over the dance program at this little high school in North Bend, Oregon, which is wild, but divine. You see it now, just a divine thing. To where then I was able to like get some more dance experience than, my junior year. And then by my senior year, I was able to spend I remember I was living my best life. I would go to the first couple classes in the morning that you have to take to graduate. And then from 12 to the end of school, I was in the dance studio.
Really?
Helping teach dance, taking a dance class, dance team practice. And then, Yeah.
So there was one at the school?
There was one at the school, huge dance program.
You're kidding me.
Nope. And then that's where I learned modern dance at the next level. So this teacher was like specialized in modern dance, which my dream my whole life was go to Cornish College of the Arts, which is a really high level dance school in Seattle. All I ever wanted to do. I didn't even want to apply anywhere else. My parents made me apply a couple places just to, let's be wise.
Yeah, right.
But I was like, no, I want to go to Cornish. All I want to do is go to Cornish. I want to be at Cornish. I want to go to Cornish College of the Arts. I want to dance. And thankfully, this teacher, because to get into Cornish, you send in a video to even show if you're even able to come audition in person.
Right.
So thankfully, this dance teacher taught me this side of modern dance I had never learned, which was one of the key videos you're supposed to send in to audition for Cornish.
Which you hadn't done before.
I hadn't done
so
before.
What's the difference? What is modern dance, actually?
I would say modern is what now lyrical has become.
I was going to say, that's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to watch. It's wild. It's so free.
Yeah.
I loved it too, but I had never really done it, And I had done ballet, jazz, tap, and then dance team where you're doing, at the high school, you do the dance at the half times and that sort of thing. I never even wanted to be a cheerleader because I was like, they can't even dance.
I know.
Lamos.
Oh, God. Here we go.
So, that was just a divine thing because I believe that was a huge stepping stone into me applying to go into Cornish.
You applied.
So I applied. There was like over, if I remember right, I'm trying to remember the numbers.
Did people apply for this place all over the nation?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think there was like over 200, hundreds of people that apply. And what you do is you send in videos. They have 3 videos. You have to send in videos of you doing a modern dance, a dance of your choice, and then in class, like in your dance class. They want to see you while you're taking class. So you send those in. And then you kind of get back, okay, you're invited for the next round of auditions. And so then if you're invited to come audition in person, they brought that down to 160, 140 people to go audition in person. And it's 3 days worth of auditions. And they just make cuts and make cuts and make cuts until they take 48 girls and 2 guys.
You're kidding me. No. And so when you go through these auditions, it's just like you learn a little bit of choreography, right?
Yep.
Over and over and over.
Over and over. You basically take a ballet class and they watch you.
Yeah.
And then they start teaching you choreography and they're just watching you.
Okay. So did you get in?
So yeah, I'll never forget when I got home from school one day. I'm going to date myself a little bit.
Yes.
Got home from school. My mom's like, you got to listen to this message on the answering machine.
On the answering machine.
So remember the old school answering machines or the lights blinking and you know you have a message? So I was like, oh my gosh. And I'll never forget. And it's like, this is so-and-so from Cornish College of the Arts, department. We want to say that you've been accepted.
Wow.
You made it, into the, 92, 93 school year of Cornish College of the Arts. Welcome. And the whole thing. Like, I don't, you don't remember what me, I'm just crying, laughing, hugging my mom. Like, oh my gosh, my dream is happening. Like, this is legit happening. Like, here we go.
So this is like a college.
Yes, it's a college.
Okay, a college.
Yeah, so I was 18 at the time. It's a dance college, performing arts college.
Okay.
So they have video.
Give me what that
they
entails.
have. So it had 2 buildings, and so above us is people that were majoring in like orchestra. So people that were majoring in violin, clarinet, like anything musical. Then our floor was all dance. Then the other building was like arts and interior design and theater.
Wow.
So it was a strictly performing arts school.
That's it.
You had to take 1 English class and 1 history class, and that was basically it. Everything else was dance.
So much better than normal college. I'm sorry.
10,000 times better than normal college because I hate math and English.
I hate everything.
I do.
Like I'm no help to Jacqueline. Like I'm just the worst because she's like, because luckily for some reason in middle school, I think it's because her little friends, she loves school now, loves it. But prior to this, she hated it, and there's nothing I couldn't like, hey, go get him, because I hate it.
Yeah, I know.
She's like trying to ask me like advice, like, Dad, what? I'm like, well, just win the teacher over.
Yeah, that's a good. Hey,
yeah.
That's not bad advice.
Life is about interacting with other human beings. That's
Yep.
what life's about. Is the quality of our life is the way we interact with other individuals. What does that mean? Get the teacher to like you.
Yeah.
Be nice and get them to like you. Then I said play the game. I taught her how to play the game.
Hey, why not?
No help.
No help. And yet lots of help, because those are the real life skills she's
Exactly.
going to
That's
need.
actual what you need.
But I'm like, why can't this be?
Yeah.
So like Josiah, who's now off at soccer school,
Yeah.
basically doing what I did for
Right.
dance, but as a high schooler, playing soccer all day and taking a few classes and then playing soccer. Like, why can't we have more schools like that around people's gifts
Gift.
and things they
Yes.
want to develop, or trade schools? Or so I believe that's a shift, but that's a whole nother podcast.
You are 100% correct. And now that you're saying this, I've never even really thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Like, what are you good at? Go to a college that's built around that.
Yep.
Couple of classes here and there.
Yep.
That you actually, you got to need a little English. You got to read. But all that little crap that you're literally going to do nothing with.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a waste of time so
Just
the
a
college
waste
can
of
make
time.
money. Don't get me going on this one.
No.
All right,
so yes, it was an amazing school. Like my electives were like partner dancing, salsa dancing. I had this salsa dance teacher that was like could flamenco dance. Like she was like the world champion.
Wow.
Like she was incredible. So yeah, you're just dancing all day. 3 hours of ballet is a minimum every day. 2 hours
Every day?
Every day, 2 hours ballet, 1 hour of toe on point.
Oh my gosh.
And then everything else is elective. But then you're just loving life. So Friday nights, you're finding a dance studio and you're going to take hip hop classes, because then hip hop was becoming like
started- no
cool
way. Yeah.
and like not
What was-
raunchy.
what
I
would-
mean, depending
well,
on which studio you went to.
Yeah. Was it Ice Ice Baby? Wasn't it around 92,
I don't
93?
even remember. It was Janet Jackson, Paula
Janet
Abdul,
Jackson,
all of those things. And then I remember meeting this guy, Dwayne, who was this awesome dancer, and he had a chance. I wanted to, make some money. So we would go into the elementary schools and teach movement classes of like, look, movement can be fun, kind of go in and teach. And it was him and me and another guy. And this is really funny, and sorry if this is offensive to anyone, but
Oh, yeah.
But
that's even better.
But basically, it was me and Dwayne and another guy, and we were chocolate vanilla, and then they called me Swirl. They're like, she's black on the inside, white on the outside.
Oh, gosh. You had flavor, huh? Oh, my God. I can't
And
believe it.
I just remember, like, that was some of the funnest times in my life, of just going to elementary schools and getting people excited about movement and dance, and the fact that I could get paid to
crazy.
like do that. I was living my best life and living the dream.
And so how did you get graded? Just if you were good or not? Like, how do you get graded in a school like this? Or are there grades? Are there no grades?
That's a really great question, and kind of brings me into one of the things that I knew was going to come out in this podcast is I wasn't able to finish school.
Okay.
So I never really, I finished the first year, and I don't really know. I don't really remember or know like how you get graded or how. It's probably more of just a pass-fail type thing, I think. Because if you're not going to keep up and do good enough, I remember somebody got kicked out.
Yeah. So it's more of a
probably
pass-fail
because
thing.
of that. She just couldn't keep up. It was rigorous and it was intense. So I don't think there was actually like grades, if I remember right.
Yeah.
But again, I never was able to finish.
Okay. And we're not breezing over this.
No.
So why?
So not too far into my first year, again, I said I'm living my best life. Everything's going good. And I was actually out with some friends for my birthday. And we're driving back. To actually go back, we had met in Portland, Oregon. So the school's in Seattle. I had a bunch of friends still in either like Portland, Coos Bay, from high school. We met in Portland to go like hang out for the weekend and celebrate my birthday and just see everybody. And we're driving back to the hotel, and we're sitting at a stoplight. And the last thing I remember is this crazy noise and just this like, and we got rear-ended. And they said the guy was probably going about 60, and I was in the back seat, and slammed into our stopped car and like just squished the car to where it's honestly a miracle that I'm alive, let alone walking.
Yeah.
So the police come, jaws of life, pull me out of the car.
And there was 4 of you in the car?
3 of us, 2 in the front, and I was the only one in the back.
And everybody made it. Everybody survived?
Yep, everybody survived. Hallelujah.
Jeez.
Hallelujah.
You were the only one in the back?
But I was the only one in the back.
Did you have a seatbelt on?
Probably, because
back
I was
then-
pretty responsible,
Yeah,
because you
'cause
don't want
back
to do
then, nobody
anything to
really
mess up
did.
your,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to do anything to mess up my. That's why I
Right.
never had to worry about drugs or alcohol, because I was like, I don't want anything to mess up my dancing.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the last thing you remember. Did you wake up in a hospital?
Well, I remember waking up to like them pulling me out of the car, and I'm like, what? And I could not like feel like from the neck down, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is going? This isn't real. Like, this is a dream. This isn't real. This is not. This is no. This is not happening. Like, what in the hell is? Oh my god! Like, you don't even know what to think. But I remember getting on the stretcher, and then I think I don't remember a little bit, and then I remember being in the hospital, and they're doing the X-rays and doing all the things, and you're just laying there like going, this didn't just happen. This is not
Okay, so
my plan, because I didn't have a plan B.
Yeah.
All I wanted to do was dance. And I was supposed to be going to try out for the Seattle Supersonics that weekend. Like, no, this is not happening to me. Like, this is
To be on the dance team, their dance team, yeah. Okay, so all right, so at what point in the did your parents came? Give it to me when the parents came to you. What was she? Were like, it's okay. What was?
Yeah,
Do you remember that?
I haven't really thought about that moment a lot.
Yeah.
I remember I was actually able to walk out of the hospital, which was crazy. Like the next day, able to walk out of the hospital, but you have that thing on,
Yeah.
the cone or whatever it is. I just don't remember a lot, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah.
I don't really remember a lot of that.
What were the
actual,
extent of your injuries? What kind of injuries did you have? Did you
It ended up
sustain?
being just a whole lot of soft tissue, a whole lot of damage to the back and the neck and the shoulders. Like, everything basically from the waist, to my chin was
Yep.
just a mess. So they were like, you need to take some time off. And I was like,
Now, so nothing was broken?
no, nothing was broken. I know.
My gosh.
I know. You look at pictures of the car, which I wish I still had. And in a moment of my like being pissed off at God after that, I ripped everything up, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I remember seeing pictures of the car, like how did we even survive?
And so you walked out of the hospital. However, they told you to take some time off.
Yes.
Now, how much time off? Like, why were you not?
Well, they
able
didn't know. They just said, we need to take you some time off from dance, and we need you to go see a physical therapist. And then I remember going to the physical therapist, and they're like, it's going to be at least 6 to 8 weeks before you can be back in the studio. And I was like, oh my gosh. So you start going through as much healing as you can. And then I remember then come January, I went back to school and did the best I could, but there was just so much pain that I wasn't able to stay training at the level that I had been training.
Yeah.
And so eventually I just finished out that year, and I kind of gave up because
So your
didn't know
first
what to
year you
do.
got through.
Yeah.
When was the accident? Going into the second year?
No, the accident was actually October of the first year.
Of the first year.
Yeah.
And the semester ends when? Or the year ends when?
End of May.
Oh,
so it's
so
August to May.
Okay,
is kind
so
of how
August to May. And this happened at
year
the end
went.
of the year.
This happened towards the end of the year, so then I thought I'd be back in January, back on the saddle.
Got it.
And
But you came back in January, February, roughly. But the pain was too bad.
Yeah.
So you were just trying to do normal stuff, and
Yeah.
the pain was too much.
Yeah. Just training at that level all day was just too much.
And so,
And
at what point were you like, were you obviously were depressed and upset?
very depressed, getting more depressed. So depressed that my parents were really worried and wanted me to start seeing a counselor. They were really worried. And I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I had nothing. This was my dream. My whole dream was like dead. And I'm like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I don't know what I'm going to do. And so I'm just really just trying to make it, just trying to just get day by day. And started seeing this counselor. And then I remember going in one day where I was just really just like, I saw no light at the end of the tunnel, and I was just kind of done. And I went into the counselor that day, and I remember hearing him call my dad and say, because my dad my parents were still living in Oregon where I graduated.
Yeah.
But my dad was in Seattle once a month for a week to work. So he happened to be here at this time. Just another divine moment.
Yeah.
That he was even in Seattle.
Right.
20 minutes from where I was. I remember the counselor called my dad and said, "Hey, I'm really worried to send her home alone. I need you to come get her. I'm not going to let her." Because I didn't have a car or anything. You either ride a bike or just walk, up there at that time. It was when things were a little bit more safe in Seattle.
Yeah, that's true.
And so they just asked me to go out in the lobby and sit down and have my dad come pick me up. And so I'm just sitting there, and I remember the receptionist is just kind of watching me, and I'm just like, I don't need a babysitter. And just all these thoughts, crazy things going from her head. She got up to, I don't know, go get coffee, go to the bathroom, I don't know. And I bolted. I was like, this is it. I'm done. And I went back to my apartment and had a whole bunch of painkillers from the car accident. And I just started shoving them down my throat because I didn't know light at the end of the tunnel. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I didn't want to live anymore. So I don't even know how many pills I took. The next thing I remember, I'm in the bathtub, like passed out probably or passing out.
Yeah.
I see the bicycle cops. Again, it's Seattle, so you're up in Capitol Hill. There's bicycle cops that come in. My roommate must have called an ambulance or called 911. I don't know where my dad did after they told me. After they called him and told him I'm not at the counselor office, she ran. And then I'll never forget, like literally seeing my dad come into the bathroom and just push the bicycle cops out of the way and like scoop me up and just hold me into his arms, and then I passed out, and I was in a coma for 3 days.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And they go in, they pump your stomach, they do all this stuff. I don't even know because I wasn't awake. They called my mom and told her that they didn't think I was going to make it. So she's in Oregon with my brothers. No way, trying to figure out how the heck to get to Seattle on such short notice. I think hearing this story is one of the times I started realizing how important it is that we can prosper so we can help somebody else in time of need.
Yeah.
It turns out my dad's company jet was like, you know what, we'll fly down and we'll go get her.
Wow.
So they, out of their own dime, flew the company jet down to pick my mom up so she could come up in case she had to say goodbye.
Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
They did not think you were going to make it.
They didn't think I was going to make it. And again, divine just encounter.
So she made it up there.
She made it up to the hospital, and then her and my dad were there, and we had a lot of friends there because we had moved from Seattle, so they had a lot of friends, some of their old church family. I remember people coming into the hospital, like once I woke up. I don't remember those 3 full days of my life, which is wild to think about.
So when you woke up, do you remember having any dreams or anything, or nothing?
Nothing. I just had a really, really sore throat.
Yeah, from
being
intubated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I just was like, oh my gosh, what just happened? It took me a little while to remember what I had done because I was so.
And so you were in a coma for 3 days.
Yeah.
And obviously you woke up and mom was there, dad was there, and a lot of other
and
people
some
too.
Friends, yeah. And when I talked about this the first time I've shared this story really publicly, it was at a conference I spoke at Cherish a few weeks ago. And I was like, and then I was asleep for 3 days because I had a short time to tell the story.
Yes.
So I was just kind of talking about, my dream was dead because this happened. And my mom was like, you realize you told everybody you were sleeping? And she's like, you were in a coma.
Yeah.
Like for 3 days. We didn't think you were going to wake up. And I was like, oh. Whew. And hearing that now, being a parent, I can't even fathom what my parents were going through in that moment.
Oh my gosh. Unbelievable here.
Unbelievable.
So, when you woke up, were you looking around? Did you know what you had done? Like, you remember taking the pills?
I don't know if I remembered right away, but eventually, of course, you remember and it comes back. And then they're not going to send you home right away.
Right.
They wanted to send me upstairs for a week, and my parents went upstairs and they're like, no, it looks like one flight of the cuckoo's nest. There's a loony bin up there.
Really?
We are not going to send her up there. So they found like a house that was like certified to be able to have people come to who are on suicide watch.
Yeah.
And so they found a place like that for me to go and stay versus... because the state, the medical, they're not going to release you until they feel like there's a little bit more safety around you not trying to do this again.
Okay, so how did you move forward in a positive way?
Well, I didn't. I mean, I did and I didn't. So I remember going to this.
And this was like, what, 19-ish?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right?
It was my 19th birthday. The accidents was on my 19th birthday.
It was
on my birthday. Mm-hmm. So I remember being in this house, I don't even know what to call it, you know what I mean, where they take everything from you. Like I remember getting my makeup compact taken away because it had a mirror in it. And they're like, nope, you can't even have that in your room.
Yeah, because you could break it. And
I guess. I didn't. Yeah.
Right.
So waking up, you have to go to these meetings, you're just like, this is wild. And you're kind of like on camera all the time. And it was this whole different world of things and being around people that I had never experienced. But I was super smart and I was super strategic. And I was like, I'm just going to get out of here. And one of the young counselor guys was the younger guy. I don't know how old he was, but I know he was younger.
Yeah.
And so I'm laughing. Sorry, Colin, if I haven't told you this part of the story. I feel like I might have, but maybe not. But I basically became friends with him and flirted my way out of the medical facility.
Oh my gosh. He fell for it, hook, line, and sinker.
He fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. I knew exactly what I was doing. I never promised anything crazy because I very much had grown up in a Christian household and was saving myself for marriage. So I never promised anything like that. But, and so we even had kept in touch, and then he realized I could lose my job. I'm not even supposed to be talking to you. So I remember getting a letter like, we can't even keep talking. And I was like, okay. I was just like, sadly, I was just using you to get out of that crazy facility. But, and I don't know why I remember that part of the story. It always just makes me laugh.
So wait a minute. So what, did you just walk out the door then?
Well, so then, you get the release. You say all the right things for them to release you that say, we feel like she's safe to go
so
home.
You worked them over to get the positive release.
Correct.
Earlier
and get sent home with my parents.
Earlier than you should have.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So bad. Yeah, and yet so strategic. Yeah. And so that's where my business side comes in. I'm like, okay, here we go. Uh-huh. So then I went back to my parents' house for those few months till I went back in January to try to go back to school.
Got it. Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, got it. Okay. So that happened in between.
Yeah, right after the suicide attempt. Then you're in there till they feel like it's safe to let you, be not under 24-hour surveillance. Because
And then you went back to try to finish out the school. Correct.
In January, I went back to try to finish out school, and it was too painful, and I couldn't do it. And something that happened. So I'm already on a dark path.
Yes.
I'm already no light at the end of my dream was totally stolen. And this is what I was sharing with you that I knew would come out in this podcast for whatever reason, that only Colin and my pastors at my old church know about. I went back to try to go to dance school in Seattle. And in Seattle, there's no sun. So you go tanning. Tanning booth is especially back in the 80s, the 90s, early 90s. Yeah. Tanning is a very, I mean, we didn't know how unhealthy it was, and it's a thing, So, so I'm already this was just another thing that got me to a darker place, to where the place where I wanted to take my life.
Right.
So this is end of January, February. I can't remember the exact time, but I was in the tanning bed, went into the tanning bed room, and the gentleman who worked in the salon. I didn't realize this till later. Of course, he has a key. He let himself into the room and took advantage of the situation. And
jeez.
Yeah. And I remember laying there, like, not being able to scream. Like, and like, again, another divine moment. Like, for some reason, like a week before this happened, I had read this article about a girl who had been in the park and had been raped in the park. And she had just talked about how she just didn't know how she was going to survive. So she just blacked out. And for some reason that came back to my mind. So I decided I'm just going to lay here and I'm just going to black out because I don't know what to do right now. Like, I literally couldn't scream. I was so scared. I was so like, what in the world is happening? And then you kind of like know what's happening though, but you can't like stop it because you're, this little 19-year-old girl. And so, all I remember is blacking out. I don't really remember what happened until all of a sudden I'm just in the room, by myself and just feel like horrible. And I go back to my apartment. And
Hold on. So did you walk out and see the guy at the front desk?
I don't know. I just ran out of there. Like, I don't know if he was probably, I don't know. I don't remember. I just like got dressed and ran out there as soon as I could. And those voices in your head were like, what's your own fault? Because I would always go right after dance class and you're in your dance clothes, not thinking about it. And I was kind of like, oh, it was kind of my own fault. Shouldn't be in there in my leotard, like my dance clothes,
Yeah.
But that's just like the wrong thoughts in your head of just like trying to process like something traumatic that just happened and run back to my apartment, the same bathtub, like with the, like, those scrubbers in the kitchen.
Yes.
Just trying to like clean myself because I felt so nasty.
And did you report this?
I was too scared. I told my roommate, I told her, don't you dare, please do not tell anyone. Because she's like, you're still in the, 30 minutes, you're still in the shower. Are you okay? Like, and she could tell something was wrong. Like, obviously, she could tell something was wrong. So I told her, and she promised not to tell anyone. And then a few months later, I don't remember, again, this is all so much going on in a short amount of time. At some point, she finally felt like she needed to tell my parents because she was watching me spiral. And then I was just mad at her. I was like, how dare you? Like, what kind of a friend are you? Well, actually, a really good friend.
Yeah, of course.
But at the time, I was like, I hate you. I can't believe you told my parents this. Like, now the world's going to know. Like, this was my own fault. I shouldn't have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sure young girl, I was probably flirting. Like, the shame came on me. Like, it was all my fault. And, like, I asked for this. And
that's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. But again, I remember, I think this is where I must have shared some of the story with my counselor, and then just the spiral of the darkness just got worse and worse. And it was just one more thing that set me into like, why do I even want to live?
And did you make another attempt? Not to end your life. Oh,
so this was all before the first time.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So car accident in October. Back to school in January. This was like end of January, February. The suicide attempt was April.
Got it. Okay, so that incident was before that.
Correct.
Oh.
Just another thing that added to the darkness and just the pain and the trauma in my life of like.
Oh my gosh. So. Now your roommate said something to your parents.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever report this to anybody?
No.
You ever go? No.
Mm-mm. I feel it was so weird. And I'm trying to remember it all.
Yeah.
Still, I feel like at some point I told somebody because then we heard another incident about this guy and something. But I really honestly, JD, I don't remember all the details. Like my life was so, I was so not in a good place then. And I want to be so careful to like not try to, I don't need to, the story's crazy enough. I don't need to exaggerate it, but I want to be careful to just make sure that
and
I talk about what I know and remember.
Correct.
Like
Gotcha.
it happened.
Gotcha. Now,
So I don't know if it ever was reported. I just remember hearing thoughts of something around that again. But then I ended up going back to Oregon. Since I couldn't finish school, I moved back to Oregon with my parents.
And then, so she told your parents.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did your parents think like, "Hey, I'm going over this place and I'm going to report him," or what did they do with that information?
I didn't even know. We never all talked about it.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, until later, we've had some conversations with my mom and dad. I'm sure my dad had some crazy thoughts himself.
I can't imagine.
You know.
And so, how did you move forward from this point? You moved back to Oregon.
Yep. So after the suicide attempt, I moved back to Oregon, and I just literally started working at a restaurant. I didn't know what to do. Just started being a hostess because I'm like, well, I love people. I can make good money. I'll just figure out what I'm going to do with my life. My high school boyfriend comes back into the picture, and he was like, why don't we just go get married? And we'll run away to Georgia and all of our problems will go away. And so my high school boyfriend, had joined the military. He was an airborne Army Ranger, jumping out of planes.
Yep.
So I liked him. He was a great guy. Didn't love him, but great guy, nice guy. My parents were like happy because, he's stable. Could take good care of me. I don't know. It was just kind of one of these things. Now, my grandparents advised against me getting married so soon. My grandpa was like, you only get married once. Like,
Right.
Are you sure? But I remember kind of just being like, well, this sounds like a good solution I have nothing else to do with my life.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I didn't handle it well. I ended up getting married and running away to Savannah, Georgia, thinking all my problems would go away.
Yeah.
But so where you go, there you are.
Oh my. So this is now about 20 still. Are you still 19?
December, I had just turned 20. So that we got married December of, what year would that have been?
4 or 5?
95.
5?
Because our first son was born in 96.
96. Okay. Mm-hmm. Wow. All right. So you want to give me because you were 20, so you were 22 when you had your first.
21. I remember I was 21 because I took all my girlfriends out drinking, but I couldn't drink because I was pregnant.
Okay. So going back now, because
there's so much in between. Like this is like the most condensed, like crazy story. So get married, move all the way to Georgia, thinking I'm just going to get a new start.
They were cool. Like, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think they weren't like, they were happy in that they liked him and they thought it was a secure new start.
Yeah.
They really think it was
the greatest idea.
No. Did they know I was maybe not making the best decision, but they also were going to let me make my own decision,
And your first child, son, name?
Taylor,
that's right.
Yeah.
How do you remember how that was like having because that's still pretty young to have your first child, right?
Very young, 21 years old. We had gotten married in December. We got pregnant that summer.
Yep.
So then the next April we had Taylor. So I was 21. Again, like I said, on my 21st birthday, I was taking all the other military wives out to go have a drink because I couldn't drink because I was pregnant. Yeah. In between all that, that's the first time. So you're going back to when you asked about anything as far as drugs and alcohol.
Yes.
I never got into any drugs because it scared me.
Yeah.
But I did get into drinking a little bit, even just because sometimes when I couldn't process or think too much, it would help like numb the pain a little bit.
Yeah.
So it wasn't all the Miss Goody Two Shoes that I had been. Growing up, I kind of really turned away. I was really mad at God. How could he do this to me? I'm just going to live my own life then.
Yeah, did you stop going to church? Like,
for a short season, and then I was kind of doing the show on church on Sunday because they would make me feel better for the day, and then go to the club on Friday and Saturday, like that kind of.
So you were mad at God at this point. Mm-hmm. How could you do this to me? Why me?
Yeah, I lost my dream. Everything I'd ever worked for, wanted to do.
And so
all I ever heard growing up is, you light up the stage. You bring so much joy. You're going to use that gift to influence and help people. It's all I heard from my parents, from people, from like, all I ever heard growing up is that I had stage presence. Was my calling. That's what I was supposed to do. Was light up a stage and then use that light to be an influence. And I thought it was going to be in the sphere of arts and entertainment. So that was all taken. So how could you take this from me? You had people tell me this was going to happen, like in church, and so I was really mad at God, just totally turned, and actually the crazy thing is I went the opposite way. So a lot of times when after a traumatic situation, with a traumatic rape situation, some people go far away and don't want to get anywhere near a guy. Went the other way. And sadly, because I had nothing to turn to, I wasn't turning to God, to any higher source, to anything. I wasn't really drinking that much, sort of thing. I actually went to just like hooking up with guys because I could literally, I knew in my brain how to lay there and pass out. So I could like stop feeling for a little bit.
Wow.
And it almost became like an addiction, like instead of like getting the hit, it was like, well.
No kidding.
And then I just woke up one day, like everything, because like I had said, I grew up, I was saving myself for marriage.
Yeah.
I had never,
so that was.
Yeah. So I woke up, I remember waking up in the same apartment, this whole crazy apartment back in college, waking up next to a guy that I didn't know. And I was like, what? This is not me. This is not who I am. But again, another thing that like led me to like want to take my life. So then getting married kind of helped that, but that was very dysfunctional in that sense of our marriage because I wasn't healthy. And so that part of our marriage was never healthy. So you put that on top of all the other things we were going from. And on top of being in the military, which is not
which is
marriage
hard.
Friendly.
No, not
already.
At all.
And I wasn't going to church. And then we did start kind of going to church, or I would go, and I did find a church to go on Sundays. But then Friday and Saturday night, I was
kind of just going through the motions.
Yeah, just out clubbing, doing my thing, out with the other military wives.
Yeah, I know how that goes.
Sadly.
Yeah.
And not all of them are like that. I knew plenty of them that were like very faithful and very, and have met a lot of military families that have made it through. But without that God and without the divine connection, it's pretty much impossible.
Right. And so when did you and how was the birth of your first child? What did that do to you? Like, did it help you? Did you have more of a sense of purpose? Do you know what I mean?
Totally. It was like a beautiful wake-up call, even though I was shocked and was not ready to have kids at age 21. I wanted to have kids when I was 30. It was not planned.
Okay.
I mean, we knew we were going to have kids, but it just came a lot sooner. When you plan the 2 years, 5 years, we'll start trying kind of thing. So finding out 6 months into the marriage we were pregnant was like a shock. And I was 21. I mean, that's still...
What was his reaction that you were pregnant? Like, okay, cool.
He was stoked.
Stoked.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, he was stoked. So that part was good. But again, military, so Taylor's born. Yeah, very much more of a sense of purpose. But then you're going through the rough military life where he was literally at Airborne Ranger School, another school. Like he missed the 4th, 5th, and 6th month of Taylor's life. Not on his fault, but...
Right. That's how the military goes.
But then it's like you're a single mom. And I remember sitting there, so I'm 21, but I look 12.
Yeah,
I look so young for my age. And I'm sitting there at the grocery store, and Taylor's just crying and crying and crying. And I hear this like lady from behind me tell whoever she was with, like, oh, I bet that teenage girl's mom's raising that baby. And I lost it. I turned around. Oh, excuse me. you don't even know what the hell you're talking about. I'm 21, and I'm married to somebody in the military who isn't even around, can even, let you be able to have the freedom to say that and even be here. I just went off. I'm like, I'm 3,000 miles from any of my family, like doing this by myself. And I just had this blow up, and like, I've never been one to, I can get angry, but I have a good self-control.
Yeah.
So I remember even getting into the car at that point. Taylor's crying. I'm crying. I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But I had this like another wake up call of like, that's not you. That's not how you treat people. Like, wow, this is, even though what they said was very inappropriate and hurtful, I just kind of had this wake up call and realizing like, wow, what if he was older to like see me respond like that? And I was like, wow, and a little bit of this wake up call. And actually that was one of the things that got me like, and I think it probably had a lot to do with just him, got me back into church and back into like, okay, I need to reevaluate my life and how I'm living.
And so you got back into church. That's what sparked you to get back in there? Yeah.
Get back into church. Our marriage wasn't horrible, but it wasn't great. Things never got better. I was like, well, maybe we'll just have another kid. Let's finish our family. Life's going to be perfect. So we did get pregnant again with Jacob, our son Jacob, who's in the Marines now.
Right, yeah.
Such a boss.
Oh, yeah.
And so baby number 2 comes. We have the perfect little family. Everything's going to... And then things just fell apart from there. We actually get out of the military and move back to Seattle. And then that's just when, like, things got really bad. The crazy thing is we were back in church at this point.
Yeah.
But everything just imploded. And then that's when we just decided that we shouldn't be together anymore.
Yep, to move on.
Mm-hmm. To move on.
And how old were the kids at this point?
They were 1.5 and 3.5.
1.5 and 3.5. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So did you move back with your parents?
Nope. I was able to stay in the house that we were in, and Nope, I never did. We moved back with my parents right when we came back, but then once we moved out, I never moved back with my parents when I was a single mom. He paid child support. I made some good money teaching. So then I went back to dance in some sense of the word and started teaching dance.
Okay.
Went back to the dance studio I grew up in, which was really fun.
Oh, that's nice. And
started teaching dance classes and teaching aerobics. So I was making money there. So I was able to sustain myself as a single mom.
Yep.
So I didn't move back with my parents.
Was he still in the in that city, the town, or
he moved back to Oregon with his family?
Okay.
So he could be close to his family. So again, we had met in high school. So that little small town of North Bend, Coos Bay, he went back there to be with his family. Kept in touch with the boys, paid child support every month.
Yep.
And the boys always knew that and knew that, you know. And then they would see him at Thanksgiving and 2 weeks in the summer. So they grew up with a relationship with him.
Yep.
But I was still able, and now I say we because Colin came into the picture then later, but I was able to really kind of have this solid foundation and just like time of like having my kids full time, even in this type of a situation.
Yep.
By his choice. But again, it's not like he was a deadbeat dad.
Yeah.
So.
And so at what point would you say maybe things kind of shifted a little bit to where was it when you guys separated? Did you feel like a weight lifted? Did you feel better?
Yep.
Did you feel...
I will never forget the first time because I remember feeling more alone when we were together than when he was gone. And I was the opposite of like, people keep track of, when their husband's coming back.
Right.
I would like count down the days till he was leaving again for a deployment in the military. And that's pretty good signs, maybe not a great...
Yeah, that maybe you should move on at that point, right?
Yeah, and so...
Wow.
It was actually a big relief, even though I felt really bad. And the only thing that kept us together for a bit of a season was, what about the boys?
Right.
What about them and their future? And then I just finally had this piece of like, if this is how it's going to be, and I just said, if this is how it's going to be, then you need to serve me the papers. And so the next day I get the papers. And the divorce starts, and but both of us felt like this crazy sense of relief.
Both of you, yeah.
And for us, it's the way that it happened. I have other friends who were in worse situations and other things where they didn't have any peace and no release to get divorced, and then they've worked through it,
right.
And now they're like happier than ever. Life is fantastic. This was, for whatever reason, the way it went down for us, and
right.
we never felt called to try to reconcile.
And now looking back,
to that.
what would you say? What would you kind of put on this as far as I'm not going to say, well, maybe the reason, or if you could give advice on this particular thing, because you guys, pretty young, 20, 21 years old.
Yeah.
Getting married early, looking back, what would you say was the learning experience there? Would you say, like, what I loved was that you guys separated pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because a lot of parents, when there is no hope, they stick around, and the vibration in the home is very negative, and it's not good for the kids. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You're doing more harm than good. I see that a lot.
Yeah, wow.
Right? I think less actually work it out than don't work. I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what would you say the learning experience, looking back at that, like, was there a learning experience, or was it just because you were coming out of so much trauma that you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a really great question I've never really thought about.
Yeah.
I think one of the learning experiences, you can't run away from your problems as much as you hear that. It's like, this was a real, like, wow, wherever I go, here I am. I'm still a hot mess. Even though it would look like I have this great family and 2 awesome boys and, doing what I love to a point, as far as I was able to, at least teach dance again.
Yeah.
But I just never got the true inner healing. I don't think until I did, I would have been able to ever be healthy and been in a healthy marriage or been a healthy wife until I went through all the inner healing. And so I think, had that happened, maybe things would have looked different. I don't know.
Right.
But that's what I would say is, like, don't wait to get healing. Don't wait to get help. When you've had some really traumatic experiences, they're not going to just go away. And going into the next thing isn't going to just fix it.
Yes.
It's going to just make it bigger. And
that's kind of what I was going for there, like the learning kind of lesson in there.
Yeah.
And when you left early and went to Georgia, was there anything in your gut telling you, like, I don't know if this is the best idea, or no, this doesn't feel right? Or was there
no? I think I was too unhealthy, and
Yeah.
it just sounded like a great escape from my horrible life that was turning out to be nothing like I thought. And it was a nice guy that I trusted.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of cool. He jumps out of airplanes.
Right.
Awesome. First guy that was really treating me, because of my own choices, that was treating me with respect and treating me, well. So I was just kind of like, well, I'll fall in love with him later, and this will work out.
Yeah.
Wow. It didn't happen.
No. But you know what? I mean, there's a trajectory here that was meant to go the way it was supposed to go.
Yeah, people ask me, would you do it again knowing what you know now? And I'm like, I can't answer that question, because if I didn't do it, I wouldn't have Taylor and Jacob.
Right.
So how do you weigh, like, not having 2 of the most amazing kids in the whole world?
Yeah.
Versus
that have healing in itself. Just their presence in your life was healing for you.
Yeah.
To a degree, and purpose, and you had no choice but to woman up, so to speak.
Exactly.
And take care of business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally. 100%.
What if they hadn't come in? I mean, where would you have spiraled? You don't even know.
I don't even want to think about that. Yeah,
right?
That's right. I never thought about it in that way. That's really powerful, JD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
and not that kids just fix things, but for me, it was a wake-up call and a purpose, and that moment in the car of, like, what kind of mom do I want him to see me to be? So I need to start processing some stuff to be a healthier mom, that I don't snap at people.
Yeah. So if you think about it, the way it went down wasn't the greatest situation. You had kids very early, but maybe that's what saved you. I mean, maybe it's what saved you from trying again and being successful at the attempt. Who knows?
Yeah, they say the second time is usually
That's why
usually
I was
the third time for girls, like I've started, I've looked into it a little bit, not a lot, but usually they say for males, the second time, a lot of time for women, it takes,
like the,
But yeah, you're right. Who knows where my life would have spiraled to or what would have happened if
he didn't say, hey, let's do it. Let's get out of here. Who knows?
Who knows?
Wow.
Yeah,
all right.
It's crazy.
Yes. Okay. So now we're moving ahead to where you separated. Now you're an actual single mom.
Yes.
Talk to me about that journey a little bit, and then are we going right into? Did you meet Colin pretty soon here? Or?
Colin was about almost 4 years later.
Okay.
So had a season of a real season of being a single mom,
So
and
tell me
actually
about that.
Finally getting back into church for real.
Yeah.
And getting healthy. So again, you're a single mom. You're just trying to get through life. You're just trying to. Again, getting child support every month, but it's not a lot. The state doesn't require a lot, but he did what was required. And then I was working, but I was working I could work about 20, 25 hours a week, very physical job, but I loved it, so that was okay. But, I think just having I remember having this moment where I was like, I'm trying to remember the last time like my soul was happy. Like trying to remember when like my soul deep down, when I was really happy and my soul was happy. Like I was super happy in high school because I was dancing and getting all this fun training, but we weren't involved in a church at that time that was, you could do ballet in church and that was it. Yeah. So the rest of my dance world wasn't accepted by that church where I went in high school. So that was another transition I had to process. I'm going from a very supportive church that would just let me dance however, as long as, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But my church in high school is like, you got to wear a turtleneck and long sleeves and a dress down to your, and you can only dance at the Easter play and it had to be ballet. There's just these restrictions. So just a lot of stuff in that. So I never was like, I was happy, but I wouldn't say my soul was happy because my dance wasn't celebrated and tied to a purpose. And my dance wasn't really like, wow, this is all I want to do. It was a little bit shunned at church, at that church. So I just remember thinking back like, okay, I was happy in high school. And then of course I was happy making it to Cornish, like, geez.
Yes, of course.
But when was the last time my soul was happy? And it was when I was in junior high and a part of Pastor Dwayne and Joel's youth ministry. So back at our old church that I grew up in, I was just like, you know what? And so I'm back in Washington, mind you, at this point.
Yep.
So I'm like, they had started their own church. So they were the youth pastors at the time when I was in junior high.
Yep.
Then after we moved to Oregon, they ended up starting their own church. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go back to Pastor Dwayne and Joel. I'm gonna go back to church, like to their church. And I will never forget walking in. I've got Taylor in one hand and the car seat in another. And I see two of the old youth leaders there, and they recognized me, and they're like, what? And I mean, come running over and just like embrace me. And then I remember they come running, Pastor Dwayne, Pastor Joel, Melissa Keefe, which was my maiden name. Well, look, Melissa Keefe's here. And they're like, what? And I'll just never forget. It was like this, like, beautiful, like, oh my gosh. This is like incredible to like just feel the love, like the genuine love of people that were so excited to see me.
Wow.
And then slowly start breaking down. What's going on? And then, and they had heard a lot of what happened because I kept in touch.
Yeah.
So they knew about high school and going to Cornish because I always knew that was my dream. And we had kept in touch with letters because back then, texting was a thing,
That's
all the things. So I remember writing them all these letters and they had heard about the car accident. And so they knew some of my life, and then I'm trying to remember if we were down we got married in Oregon by Reverend Sinner. Isn't that funny? His name was Reverend Sinner.
Are you kidding me?
I'll never forget that. So Pastor Dwayne wasn't the one. So, but they had heard about that, knew I had been married, went off to Georgia, and that was kind of the last I really had interacted with them. So this was them seeing me for the first time. So then processing through, here's where I'm at now. And like literally like in the back room having a breakdown of like, I'm a single mom, like what, I don't know what to do. Telling them the whole story about remembering how amazing they were when I was in junior high and how my soul was happy. And so that's why I'm back here.
Wow.
And that started my inner healing journey where I have never looked back.
No
since
kidding.
That day.
Right there.
Right there.
Where are these guys now?
They still, so that is the church that Colin and I met at. So they still have a church in Washington. Mm-hmm.
No way.
Yeah. So I get plugged into that church.
Tell me about the
dive
plug-in.
my whole life into that church. It's a small church, very powerful. They're very good at restoring very broken people. They don't really raise and release leaders, but they're very good at restoring people.
Yep.
So I was a very broken person. And they just came along, no judgment, nothing but just, we're going to help you, but you got some serious inner healing that needs to happen. And walking me through hours and hours of processing and praying and healing. Like it was intense, but beautiful.
Wow.
So that was years in the making. And then they're pastoring, they're still pastoring. I'm just jumped in, but it was a small little church. So then we decided to do an Easter play. And somehow it's again, the whole divine thing of Colin and I not meeting till the right time. So you guys heard his story. He had been through a divorce. His ex-wife, left. And he ends up coming back to Seattle where his family was. And his brother tells him about this church. And somehow he's attending this church for months before we met each other. And it was like a small church. It was really just a divine thing. So we are doing this Easter play, and it's not like what your daughter's in. So it's not like Twisted. Yeah. It's not like even the plays we grew up doing. So we didn't even like have one rehearsal together till the day of the show.
Oh gosh.
So me and my friend Amy were the two dancers. So she was another teacher at the same studio I taught at. And I was like, we need another dancer. Will you come dance? She didn't go to church yet, which is awesome because this is how it brought her to church. So I was like, why don't you come help me, be a dancer? So me and her would practice at the studio and never practice with any of the cast, which again, I don't know. They probably had a few practices before again, just a different, place. So it's the day of the rehearsal. And we're at the church, and this was at the time we were renting another church's building, so we would meet on Saturday nights. So this Saturday afternoon, it's our first time to meet and rehearse. And I'm sitting there like stretching and getting ready to dance. And actually Colin's brother, Kevin, comes over. He goes, hey, have you ever met my brother? And I was like, I didn't know you had a brother. Super random. And what was so crazy is through this whole, you guys are hearing, it is crazy to think about. There's so much in this.
Yes.
And this is still the short story. So through all this, I started the revelation of being generous. And so going from being a single mom to not being able to, even buy a birthday present for my kid to now where I was like making a lot of money and giving a lot of money. And I was able to buy my own house. So as a single mom, I bought my first. And actually, it was the money from the car accident that my dad was wise enough to tell me to save that helped me get the down payment for my first house.
Wow.
So single mom, I had this like 8,000.
Wow.
No.
I was like, whoa.
Sorry. 800 square foot house.
Yeah.
It's like the size of our pool now.
Yeah. Not even like your kitchen.
But I had bought my own house.
Yeah.
Single mom, been mowing my own lawn, washing my own car. Like I was living life. Like I was doing good.
Living large.
Living large. Life was so good. I mean, I was still healing, but like life was good. And I had dated a couple guys, but nobody that could match Colin. I needed a real man.
Took.
No, a chiropractor, cop, but nobody's like her. So. Anyways, we're there on Saturday for rehearsal, and Kevin's like, it goes back to the story. So Kevin's wife, who's now my sister-in-law, was the one who was my real estate agent.
Oh.
So she's the one who helped me buy my house. So how Colin and I hadn't met before this was, again, just like bizarre, divine. Like, okay. So I'm sitting there getting ready.
Kevin's one of the guys that you went back to, right? No, Kevin was at the church, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So Kevin is Colin's older brother, and he was at the church.
Got it.
And he's the one who brought Colin to this church.
Got it.
Okay. So Colin is actually in the play playing Jesus.
Come on.
Have you heard this before?
No. Oh, gosh.
So Colin was literally playing Jesus. So he's got on a Jesus wig, the Jesus outfit, like full on like that. So Kevin's like, I'm going to go get my brother and you got to meet him. So I'm like, okay. So Colin starts walking over and I lean over to Amy and I'm like, Jesus is hot.
Oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding. And she just starts laughing. And so he comes over and then like, he's like, whoa, who's this girl, And, a few months before that is when, he had been believing, as he talked about, I'm going to still want to be really careful what I share, but it had been a few months since Pastor Dwayne had really told him it's okay for you to move on.
Yeah.
From previous life. It's okay for you to take your ring off and move on. So this was a few months after that. So he was still healing, but it had been a year and a half for him. And so he wasn't straight off of everything, but in a place I think where he was like, oh, I could, I could notice. I could notice. So we meet, we start talking, and then we do the whole rehearsal, and it's just this thing. And then we don't see each other again until the next Saturday night at church. And then I have the boys. So at this point, Monty, the boys' dad, was still living in Washington. So he had the boys every other weekend. He hadn't moved to Oregon quite yet.
Okay.
So he had the boys the weekend of the rehearsal. So, we all meet, dance, all go out to eat, all the things. But then the next weekend, I'm at church with 2 kids, And I'm standing there with the boys. They're just running around because they're just fun, lively boys. And Colin starts walking over. Now, I knew when I met him that hair wasn't his real hair, like that was a Jesus wig.
Right.
But I didn't know he didn't have hair.
Yeah.
But he starts walking over and he gets closer and I see his eyes. I'm like, oh, it's Jesus.
Was he bald back then? Uh-huh. Shaving back then?
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah. You want to hear the funny part that I shared at Cherish?
What?
It's I had whether you agree in making a list of what you want or don't want, I'm like, no, I'm going to believe for what I want. And my number one, even above a godly man, because just being real, was a handsome bald guy.
No way.
Yes way. And then number 2 is a godly man, because I'm like, he's got to look good, especially if I have to look at him the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And we're going to have kids together. I want to have good looking kids. So hey.
And so when he came over to you again, he was like, are you kidding me? You couldn't believe it.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh. Jesus, this is Jesus.
Jesus.
It was just this whole thing in my head. And then he's talking to me and Jacob, trying to probably process what this is. Because the couple of guys that I had dated,
and you're at this point, what, late 20s at this point, right?
I must have been 26,
yeah,
27?
I had you about 27 roughly.
And I had kept those guys way out. The boys never even, it was when they weren't around. So I was very careful to not get them. So I think this is the first time Jacob probably even saw me talking to a guy.
Yeah.
He comes walking over.
Jesus.
Yeah, let alone Jesus. Well, he didn't know it was Jesus,
right.
But he comes walking over and he just kicks Colin in the nuts.
Are you serious?
I'm totally serious. Ask Colin. And Colin grabs him, joking, and picks him up by the
his
feet,
yeah.
And it's hanging him over this and he's laughing, having the time of his life. And it's just one of those funny interactions.
And how old was your boy when he kicked him?
4, and he must have been 4.5.
4.5?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's so funny. So Colin will never forget that. But we then just start talking. We then decide to okay, we have both come out of broken relationships. Our pastors at the time had the most beautiful marriage we had ever seen. So we went to them where we were or Colin actually went to them first. He's like, I'm really interested in this girl, but I want to do it right. I want to talk to you guys. I want what you have. And they just said, hey, there's just some more healing that needs to happen. I think you guys need to stay friends for 3 more months while you finish your healing process. So we talked through that. We agreed that that's what we were going to do. So we didn't start dating. We only hung out in groups for 3 months. And then it was kind of like we got permission to like start dating.
Oh boy.
And I'll remember like our first date, like we talk about interdigitation, like the first time we held hands, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is wild. And we had like this 4-hour dinner, and and then just really literally just started falling in love, and just so much restoration started coming back into each other and our lives and our world. And my girlfriends always tease me because when we were hanging out, oh, Jesus is calling.
Jesus.
Are you going out with Jesus next weekend? Like it just became this like joke, and so that's the long short story.
Hold on a second. Go back to the play.
Oh my gosh.
So the night of the actual play.
Yeah.
How did that go?
It was just, it wasn't.
How did Jesus do?
He did great, but he jokes about being on the cross, like Last Temptation of Christ, like checking me out while he's like, I know. You'll have to hear his side of the story. It's hilarious. It kind of went just like a normal, like what you hear about a normal church play, not like.
And they had him up on the cross and everything.
Yeah. But not like as intense as like Twisted and how we
crazy.
do it, it's nothing like that. But it's still a powerful story, and
it's more Hero's the crazy
Hero's
one.
the crazy
Hero,
one.
Yeah. Twisted is also out there, but Twisted isn't crazy.
Right.
I'm not Twisted. Hero.
Yeah.
With Jesus.
So it was nothing like that, but it was just, it makes for the most amazing, crazy, funny story.
Okay, so
all right, that's how we met.
All right, so keep going. How long were you dating before you started talking real serious stuff? Like, hey.
Well, pretty serious, because we took that 3 months to really just be friends and get healing. We started realizing that this might be a real thing, but we're not going to act on it. And so this was November. We started dating officially, and then pretty soon off the bat, we started talking serious. And then I was like, okay, it's time to introduce you to the boys at another level other than just the really cool guy at church.
All right, so how long were you kind of quote unquote dating before you introduced him to the boys?
I would say,
before him, besides him kicking him in the nuts.
Yeah. From that point to when they like met him as more than just the cool guy at church who likes to like wrestle and do all that, was probably about 5 or 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah. It sounds like crazy because it was only a month or a month and a half after we were dating, but we had all this history before that.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And so, and then it was February, Valentine's Day, that next February, he proposed. So everything was very quick.
Did you know that was coming?
August. Yeah.
You did?
It was coming, yeah. Then we really started talking about it, and we knew, and our pastors was like, we really feel like you're ready. We've really support this. We're so excited about this. We're going to help you in this. Like, they were just stoked. Thought it was, amazing. Not to go quick, but not too quick. But that's when February was when he proposed, and then I'll never forget when we got back. So he had a business trip in Florida, so he flew me out to Florida. And what's really funny is because we were doing it right, we weren't sleeping together, so we wouldn't stay in the same hotel room. So it's a work trip with some people from work, and he asked if I could stay in the same room as his secretary, and they were like, what? They didn't get it. It's like, this is weird. But she was like, okay, there's 2 beds in there. But we always joke about how when he went over to propose to me, I was sleeping with his secretary.
Oh my God.
I know. Such a bad joke. But he flew me over to Florida for a work trip. He was doing a work trip, and then he rented a white Mustang so he could drive me around on a white horse, and then
oh my God.
took me out on a gondola, proposed, and then we were there. Then we get back and then have the boys.
Oh, so that was in Florida.
That was in Florida. That's where isn't that crazy?
Near
That's where
water.
He proposed. Yep, on the water. And we came back, and I'll remember the boys then wanted to ask if, so cute. They wanted to ask if he would be their dad.
Aww.
So they the fruit snacks, the little fruit snack wrappers, the
Oh,
little
yeah, of
smiley,
course.
they're smiley face ones from Walmart that they used to love. They had opened one and put like a little ring, just like this cheap little ring we had got in thing, and then like taped it up. And so we were having dinner, and they're like, "Hey, will you open this? You want some fruit snacks? You want some fruit snacks?" He's like, "No, I'm good." I'm like, "You want some fruit snacks? No, you want some fruit snacks."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, sure, I'd love some fruit snacks." So he opens them, and then he like pours them out, and he sings this ring. He's like, "Wow." And then the boys like sit on his lap, and they're like, "Will you be our dad?"
Oh my gosh.
And I just melted. I was like, "Wow!" Like,
How amazing was that?
it was incredible.
Wow. All right. So how long before the wedding?
And then that was February, and then we got married in August.
So August. Okay. Where did you get married?
We got married at our church where we met at.
Oh, that's nice.
Now the church had a building now, so it wasn't the same building. Our church
Yeah.
had bought a building, but Pastor Dwayne and Joel, the ones who brought us through all that restoration,
And so now
married us.
talk to me about what you did prior to getting married to Colin. Did you talk? Did you align, see where you're going? Was there any planning involved? Like, hey, here's what we're going to be entrepreneurs. What did you talk about any of that? Like, hey, here's our future together. Talk to me about that. Do you remember any of that?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about at that point when we got married, he was working at a flooring company. We didn't own our own business.
Right.
And I was teaching dance, and at that point we were just wanting to be healthy and have a good marriage, impact people at our church and our local community, and raise the boys the best we could in a situation that wasn't ideal, being that,
Yeah.
which is great that their dad's still involved.
Right.
But, we didn't have all of these kind of entrepreneurial aspirations at that time. It was really just more of our life is good.
Yeah,
We've been
you had
restored.
healed.
Things are, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's enjoy this flow a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
be the best parents we can.
Yes.
Okay, so then how much further did you get into that where all of a sudden you're thinking, oh, okay, like I know that the flooring, he wanted to then open his own flooring company or whatever the case is, or...
Yeah, and he would remember the timing.
Yeah.
It wasn't, we hadn't been married that long,
Yeah.
but we had two boys, we had the boys, and we knew we wanted to have more kids.
Yep.
And I remember he woke up in the middle of the night, and he wasn't in bed, so I went down to see what was up. And he was like, "I feel like we're supposed to start our own company." And I was like, I didn't know what that looked like. My dad was a very successful businessman, as I said, but he hadn't started his own thing. And so I was just like, well, I trust you.
Yeah.
Okay. I just had this peace about it. And then that starts a whole nother podcast, because I don't know what time it is. I have to make sure I'm out of here.
Oh, we got plenty of time.
Okay, good. And feels like a whole nother podcast, the journey of then starting the business.
Yeah, we got plenty of time. All right, so let's fast track the business.
Okay.
Go ahead, fast track it.
I don't know how to fast track
So you started
it.
the business. No, let's start our own company.
Okay.
Give me like a turning point, like where you just like all of a sudden you guys went like this way, that way, totally different what you were thinking. Obviously the business, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it happened slowly. Him just like figuring out how to start a company, and then his boss that he worked for kind of blessing him and letting him finish out work there as he started. He just would use his hours at work to only work on the job, and then after hours we're working on his company. He was very faithful in that, I remember.
Yep.
Gosh, a turning point. That's a great...
Well, just the business itself, right? Was
Yeah.
like did you continue to do what you were doing? When did you quit, and when did you go full time with him?
So I was still teaching classes, and I kept teaching classes, and honestly, kept teaching classes up until COVID. So I kept doing that on the side. Just the amount of classes that I would teach.
Even here in you were teaching dance classes?
Not so much dance classes. It became more and more of the group exercise and the fitness classes when we moved down here. I never taught in a studio.
I didn't know
down
that.
Here. Yeah. So I was teaching dance and teaching when I was a single mom. teaching dance, teaching fitness classes at like 24-hour, places like that where you could get a job. I get a call I was teaching at YMCA also. And then somehow through the YMCA, somebody heard about, what a crazy fun instructor I was. That they were like, hey, we want to hire you possibly to come teach at Highline Community College and start teaching PE classes. And that was such a cool story because I feel like it was after like I had like believed and like been really generous and given some money to like help somebody else. And then I get this call of like, hey, we want you to come audition to teach classes here, where I would make like 40 times as much as I was making. And they're like, and you can put the kids in the child care center. So you have free babysitting.
And where was this?
This was at Highline Community College. So a community college in Washington.
Wow.
And so this was then how I was able to then
and what kind of fitness are we talking about here? What do you?
Or buy a house as a single mom.
What kind of fitness are we talking about here?
So I used to teach body pump, body attack, you know that Les Mills, that whole thing? No, you've never heard of that?
No.
Wow. Wild.
Yeah.
I taught everything.
I'm a meathead.
So I basically
walk around and lift a couple of weights and I'm out of there.
Right.
A couple of biceps.
I basically could teach everything but yoga because I was too loud and obnoxious. I was like crazy, wild, and fun. So I would teach. Step aerobics was the big thing back then. Like you know what I mean? Step aerobics. Yeah.
You were just,
that was
did you have the mic?
Oh, I had the headset. I had it all. And I remember going into audition for the community college, doing my step routine, and just blowing them away. They loved it. So I kept doing all that because I could keep doing that on the side and I enjoyed it. And
okay, so here's what we'll do. Let's give me you get married, you then moved in together.
Yep.
Got a little, your house?
No, so we ended up, he had bought a house also.
Got it.
So we ended up selling my house and using the money from my house to buy our first offices for Sustainable.
Got it.
That's
Sustainable Interiors, ladies and gentlemen, from then to now doing more than $50 to $60 to $70 million a year. Stupidness.
It's
over $1 million a week.
Say.
It's over $1 million a week.
Wild.
It's insane. It's absolutely absurd. It's in a good way. All right, so hold on. Let's go back. All right, so you got your first office. You got the office, right?
Yep.
Okay, and this was what? This was in Washington.
Yep.
Okay, which is still the home base of Sustainable.
Correct.
Right?
It's moved from Fife, the little town that we were in, to Federal Way. The Sustainable hub is in Federal Way, Washington now. Yes.
All right. So, and then what year did you move to San Diego?
So we moved to San Diego 11 years ago.
11 years ago. What brought you here? I'm going to skip a little bit.
Yeah, skip a little bit because there's so much more in between there.
Yeah.
So here we are. The company's going well. Things are going good. Again, we've had two of our own kids. So we had Josiah and Bethany while we were still in Washington. Bethany was 1.5 when we moved to San Diego.
And what brought you here?
And what brought us here is, we had in part thought we were going to be getting the Navy hospital job up by Camp Pendleton. But we also just felt a call to move, and we just felt a call to shift. And so, like I said, our previous pastors were incredible restoration. I mean, the most amazing people you will ever meet, still to this day. But we had really capped out on where we could go in our leadership. I think in part to the small town that it was, and then in part to just their gifting was really to restore people at the deepest level.
Right. Yeah.
Never really raise and release like a lot of leaders.
Right. Gotcha.
And so we had just felt like this shift in our like spirit of like it's time to move on. It's time to go somewhere else. So this opportunity was possibly popping up. And we were like, oh, San Diego, that could be amazing. We came to visit. We felt like, oh my gosh, this is it. The boys fell in love with it. Taylor was going into high school. And so the fact that he wanted to move was like, okay, this is a divine thing if he wants to move. So really it was just like a call of like, we want to do bigger and better. And we're ready to move somewhere bigger and better. And we had never even heard about Awaken before we moved.
And you were this whole time you're still instructing fitness stuff, still doing that stuff.
Yep.
Okay, and you hadn't heard of Awaken.
Correct.
You come down here.
Yep.
Would you buy a little home, a townhome? I can't remember. I think I heard through the grapevine you had something like a condo or.
So we flew down here a couple times before we moved because it was very important to us to find the church and the school before we moved.
Gotcha.
So we land on Carmel Valley because we find Awaken. And
hold on, how'd you find Awaken?
Online.
What do you mean online?
Online.
What does that mean?
So we had been part of a church where we would go up to City Church and go to these amazing conferences that a City Church would put on in Seattle.
Okay.
And so we literally...
That's the church you were at with the guys, right? The Dwayne? No?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No. Well, from that church,
yeah.
we would go up, and the City Church, that was a way bigger church, would put on these conferences.
Okay.
So we had heard of City Church.
Got it.
And it was awesome. So we're like, you know what? We should look up City Church, San Diego. And at the time, Awaken was called C3, which is Christian City Church. Ah. So...
I never even knew what that meant.
Yep. C3 meant Christian City Church. So we look at a couple different churches. We still hadn't heard of.
So you looked it up online?
Yeah, we looked up some churches online, came to visit, came down here, visited those churches. Awesome, but not our flavor. We're like, okay, there's
including
gonna be,
C3.
No, there's got to be something else. Like you're not calling us to come here to just be at a church that we don't just love because we pour our whole selves into it.
How many visits per church did you do before
One.
you knew?
We knew. Oh, we knew. Oh, yeah.
You could tell immediately.
Immediately.
You just feel it.
Feel it. And then even if
you both felt it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Even if the word was biblical, but maybe not like, one church we went to was amazing, but they were really into like, got to hunker down. We're not sure what life is going to be like. We're all about like take dominion. Let's win at life. Let's,
take territory, prosperity.
Yeah. And so we literally like... Colin just somehow Googles City Church and Pastor Jurgens pops up and this City Church comes up online. So he's like, you know what? I'm just going to download a message from this Jurgen guy and just listen to it, And he's driving from Seattle to Portland for a job. So we're back in Washington after we had visited. We're like, hey, there's got to be a church down there we're supposed to be a part of. Like, come on.
Yeah.
So he downloads this message and he starts listening to it. And 20 minutes into the message, he pulls over to the side of the road crying, and he calls me. He goes, I don't know where the heck this C3 City Church thing is. I don't know who this Jurgen guy is, but we got to go check it out. Like, there's something on this. So then we start looking online, watching their preview, just like, because they, how we have the video that shows like what's coming up in the life of Awaken.
Right.
We would watch that every week. They didn't have the app and all that to hear all the messages or to like watch them. But we listened to a few and we're just like, I don't know where this is, but we're coming. So we come down for another visit. We actually still are just trying to keep an open mind. So we go to visit.
And do you bring the kids into the church as well? No.
Just us two at this time.
Okay.
Yeah. So the kids would stay with my parents and have a fun grandparents weekend. And we would just come down to get, figure out where we're going to be. And so we go to this church. We're sitting there, beautiful people, but nothing about this first church we went to was excellent. Like, just not our style, the way that people were dressed, and which is fine if that's how you, but for us, we are like, we want excellence. We want God to be shown in a light of like, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah.
And so I was just sitting there going, oh, I hope Colin doesn't think this is it. I hope Colin doesn't think this is it. And so literally in that service, they have like the 60 seconds where you can meet somebody, and he leans over, he goes, if we leave now, we can get to that C3 church. So we snuck out. I know.
Oh, gosh. I'm glad that you're not mentioning names, though.
No, there's no reason to.
And normally I would dig, but I'm not digging on this one out of respect.
Thank you.
But I'm dying to know.
I'll tell you later.
We'll tell it off air. And you guys can subscribe to get the real content, and I'll reveal that. No, I'm just kidding.
So we leave and we drive to C3 Awaken, and they're meeting in a middle school, Carmel Valley Middle School. Yep, and already the level of excellence was like nice people, dressed nice, just everything that they had turned a middle school into was so excellent. Wow. We're like, okay, this is our vibe. We'll see how the worship is. Worship was next level.
Wow.
And we're like, oh my gosh. And then somebody gets up and just starts praying, and you could feel the power. And we're like, whoa, and they can pray. And I finally was like, in my head, is like, I don't care how good the preaching is.
Yeah,
I want to
we're
go
done.
here. I could get preaching elsewhere. And
Unless
then,
they completely destroy this
of
message
course.
somehow.
Yeah.
And just swear everywhere.
Yeah.
This is our home.
We're totally unbiblical. Yeah.
Totally.
But no, the person gets up, starts pray. We're just like, are you serious? This church has everything we ever dreamed of. And we're like, this is it. We're never looking back. So then that's where we found.
Who was preaching? Do you remember?
It was actually Pastor James Murray, who Pastor Jurgen and Leanne knew from Australia. He was here for a season. Him and Alana, his wife, were here for a season as the youth and young adult pastors. They've moved back to Australia now and started their own church. But he was preaching, and it was awesome. And
okay,
he,
so give it to me. What completely did it? Was the message that Jurgen? It was Jurgen.
On the
message in the
online
car.
message, correct?
That's
Yes,
what did it.
that's what did it.
I mean, but let's.
That's what got us to go be like, we have
correct,
to go check this out.
But I mean, let's say you didn't listen to that, you probably would have eventually tried the church, right?
I would think so.
We
Once
don't
we
know.
moved here,
I mean, we'll never know, but
yeah, I don't know, because if we would have somehow got involved in another church,
Right.
when we commit, we're loyal. We commit.
had he looked at any other online services like before that, or just
A few.
Yeah,
we had
okay.
gone to a couple churches when we would come visit,
Yeah.
but we hadn't really looked online
Right.
before he heard this one.
Before Jurgen's online.
Yeah.
Wow. And Jurgen wasn't there that day, was he?
I don't know for sure if he was there or not, because he's so amazing how he's still there even when he's not speaking, so
I
he can
know.
cheer on his leaders.
He's
Like,
unbelievable.
I've just never seen anybody like that.
He's unreal. He's just
I know.
too much.
I know. So I don't know if he was there or not, but he wasn't.
And where
preacher.
when did Colin, 'cause Colin likes to elbow.
Yes.
And like he likes to lean in and get the knee. I remember sitting next to him at one of the, I think it was Twisted, and all we did was push each other the
Right.
whole night, just the whole time.
Sounds
It
about right.
It was beautiful. I mean, the first time we ever met,
Yeah.
we shoved each other through a wall, I think. All right, so in the first service at C3 in the
Yep.
middle school, when was he starting to elbow you like, hey, or was he like, babe?
After somebody got up and prayed with such power, and it wasn't the pastor. He was like, "Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Did you feel that?" And I'm like, I was like, I don't care how good the sermon is.
That's what you said to
I
him?
want to be here. And so,
Gosh.
yeah. So then that's pretty much when we knew. So then we go home, we start realizing, oh my gosh, we found the church. We tell the boys, we find a house to rent. So we wanted to rent a house so
Yeah.
we could get down here and
Yeah.
just get a feel for the area. So, so cool, because we heard Carmel Valley Middle School was the best middle school in the area.
Right.
Torrey
Yeah.
Pines High
Yeah.
School was an amazing
Yep.
high school.
Yep.
And then the Josiah and Bethany were younger, so kind of wherever they went, we heard the elementary schools were really good too. So we were like, okay. So we find a rental house that's right by that, so that we can go to Carmel Valley Middle School for school and for church.
Wow.
So that's where we rented that first place, is in Carmel Valley for that reason.
And so when do you remember meeting Jurgen for the first time?
Gosh, a couple months after we started, not right away. It was a couple months after we started. I remember meeting him like in the parking lot after church, like just really quick.
Who's the first person that you guys met that made such an impression, other than the first time somebody prayed? But who was your first real contact within the C3, now Awaken?
Yeah.
That you just said, like, that was just a...
I love that you asked that.
Yeah,
Two
give it to
people, Matt and Vanessa Lee. They go to Eastlake campus now.
Yeah.
He actually graduated PFA last season, is leading this season. Vanessa's the one who, at conference that we talked about, her and two other girls, they just started a company and bought that hotel in Redding. So anyways, all these amazing connections. So Vanessa Lee was the first one to invite me to a connect group, like a women's lunch connect
Yeah.
group. So those were some of our first friends. And then Patrick and Claire Nolan, who now go to San Marcos campus. They were another couple that we met and befriended us right away. Like, I remember 6 weeks after we'd been here, my brother was getting married and he didn't want any kids at his wedding. Just my brother.
Hey.
And they still
Fine.
don't have kids, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But he was like, no kids. I don't want any of the nieces and nephews. We're like, okay, it's your wedding, dude.
Yeah. Do what you got to do.
But I remember Patrick and Claire Nolan came over and stayed at our house to watch our kids overnight, so we could go
Wow.
there, because it was a long drive, and Yeah. So those were some of our first friends that we met. And then the next friend was Charles and Tessa Fuller. And they were brand new at the same time. So Tessa and I met in DNA class.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. And have been just crazy good friends ever since then.
And then, so what when you met Jurgen, gosh.
I know. What time is it? I do have to be there.
Yeah, you have to go soon.
I know. What time is it?
You're killing me with this.
I know. I'm sorry, but I have to be at that dinner and I can't be late.
All right. So they're going to understand. You know why? Because it's me.
Because it's you. Yeah. You tell Pastor Leanne that. Will you text her? Here's why
I don't
have
ever sell.
The
only one I don't ever sell. I have Jurgen's. I got everybody's. Leanne, I haven't broken that veil yet.
Okay.
I haven't gotten in.
We'll get there.
All right. So yeah, you gotta be on the road in a few minutes.
I do. And what's really cool is what I'm going to is the dinner for Cherish to celebrate speaking at Cherish Conference, where God revealed to me that my dream and what he put in me and what he said to me as a child. So last March at the Pathfinder breakfast was amazing. Yep. Everything was freaking rad. Like, it was lit up. Afterwards, a gentleman comes up to me after the breakfast, and he was like, "You light up that stage. You bring so much joy in life. It is so awesome to see you use your influence to actually help people." That's what was spoken to me as a child every time I danced. And I had this revelation of like, oh my gosh, God, my dream is starting to come to pass.
Yeah.
My dream is getting realized. It looks different than I thought, but I'm using the gift you gave me on stage. I'm so comfortable, just love it, to like actually help people. And so then I'm telling Pastor Leanne, I'm like, oh my gosh. And she's, "You've got to speak at Cherish." And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I've never even preached a sermon. You want me to speak at Cherish in front of 2,200 ladies? And she was like, "Yes, this is it. This is the story. You're going to finish. You're going to be the closer at conference, and you're going to share the story of your God dream coming to pass." And so I shared that. If you get a chance to watch it, I mean, try not to brag, but it was so fun.
Wow.
It was just incredible. And it was just this moment of like, wow, God, your promises are yes and amen, and this is really happening. So this dinner tonight is all the speakers and the like very core team leaders who poured hours into putting on Cherish for everybody, and she wants to like celebrate that. So even the fact of what I'm going to after this, and then we're flying to Salt Lake City tomorrow to do our second Pathfinders conference. Like, what kind of a life are we living?
Hold up here. Hold up.
I know.
Look at the goosebumps on my arms. Because listen, it gets better. I told you this, but ladies and gentlemen, I have a list of hundreds of people for my podcast. It's endless. There's no end to it.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll have the list, but then I'll wait till the Holy Spirit nudges me to say it's time for this person to come on.
Yeah.
And when I heard, this is all going full circle here.
Wow.
Listen to this. When I heard about what you shared and how powerful your message was at the Cherish conference, which my wife went to, and several of our girlfriends. When I heard what happened, the move that the way you moved the crowd,
wow,
the message that you shared that you've never shared before, the things that you've shared, which until today you haven't shared before, and you shared stuff on this podcast. And so when I heard that, because you've been on my list since day one, I said, it's time. The Holy Spirit, okay, it's time to bring Melissa in. It's now time. Because of the Cherish conference,
amazing,
was the nudge to get you in here. And it just so happens that the day that we finally worked out is the day that you're celebrating the Cherish conference.
Yeah.
Because of that, it's all in one shot here. All right, so give me 5 more minutes.
Okay.
7 more minutes. I'm like a kid, like the kids. Daddy, 2 more minutes.
2 more minutes.
3 more minutes.
Time for bed.
All right, so because I want to hammer this thing home.
Okay.
Because remember, I talked about it earlier about the way that your journey went, and you just said it. You just said it, where your dream was to be dancing and on a stage, but yet, boom, and then it went down. It went dark, and then this guy. And I'm going to give this guy a lot of credit. I am. Because when he said, hey, let's do this thing, let's move, that just sent your whole trajectory a certain way that brought you over to here, had children, came over here.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which led you back to the church to get healing.
Yep. Yeah.
And because of that healing from these guys, Dwayne and
Pastor Joel,
I want to give them props again. Because of that healing and because of you going to them and who they are, led you to Colin.
Yep. Yeah.
Which then led you to this getting, the rest is history, as they say, because then it led you to do this thing, and then it started a business, and then you wanted to move, and now you're here, and then it led you to C3 because of Jurgen.
Yeah, because of Jurgen. He's the first one who walked in. So we kind of met him, and then the next April after we moved here, we went to Australia for C3, their global conference.
Wow.
Because we were like, if we're going to give ourselves to this, we're going to give ourselves to this. So we want to know, like, the mothership. Where is this started? This movement started. So we went to C3 for their global conference, and that was the first time we had to fly all the way over to Australia. And there was only 2 other people there from C3 here. C3 here was a lot smaller at the time. That we had dinner with Pastor Jurgen. The first time we actually sat down and talked to him was in Australia at that global conference.
And so when did you start? Oh God, see, I could just.
I know. It could go on forever.
The Pathfinder ministry, which is a marketplace. Break it down real quick in 60. Give me the path, because I want everybody to hear this.
Yeah. So we believe in not just making money, but making a difference. Don't just make a living, make a difference.
Yep.
So Pathfinders is the marketplace and the spheres of culture expression to accelerate your calling. So you talked about your calling and your different spheres, whether it is arts and entertainment, like in
which
dance.
basically this kind of is, right? So I didn't even realize I was in that.
There you go.
And now I do.
Now you do. And you're killing the game.
Hey, no.
So finding your convergence, finding what you are called to do, and then we're going to accelerate you in that and give you tools to accelerate your calling, but then also tools help you to create wealth for a purpose so that you can actually help your community and build other people up.
Which is what it's all about.
Which is what it's
literally all about. Not just
Colin and I are 100% volunteers. So we do Pathfinders. We do not get paid. It is our serve. It is what we do for the church. So it is incredible and super fun. We have 72 volunteers now who also volunteer their time, and 87 apprentices. Yes, you're one of the leaders.
I'm one of them.
But we volunteer too.
Unbelievable.
So it's totally volunteer based to help other people get into their convergence and create wealth for a purpose. And that started about 1.5 years after we had that dinner with Pastor Jurgen.
And so we're now on going into season 11.
Wild.
You heard some of the people that I brought that I got in for this next one.
160 applications.
Yes.
There's some boss people on the list. We're like, whoa.
We could do literally, and I think that we should. In fact, you now just inspired me. Now I think that what we're going to do is we'll schedule another one with both you and Colin.
That's a great idea, and dive into that.
And we'll dive into not only what Pathfinders is about, but what we'll go further into, like convergence and all that stuff between the two. I don't know. We'll do something.
Great idea.
The two of you in here.
And how to hold your family and your integrity, because everybody told us there's only a 50% chance you guys are going to stay married in your second marriage.
That's right.
We've now been happily married for 18 years. Like happily, loving, in love, and still in with each other.
In like. So
we still like each other.
So, all right, Melissa. you have to go
You're the best.
You have to go very soon.
You won't even tell me what time it is.
I won't.
I know how late I am.
Just tell Leanne it's JD. She'll be like, oh, that's fine.
That's fine.
I can't even do an accent. It's terrible. She'll be absolutely, when she hears it's me, everything will be fine.
Okay.
All right, so listen. Give everybody some pearls real quick, and we'll land this plane on look at your journey. Look at your journey going from thinking that your dreams are broken, they're done, there's no hope, to going very, very, very dark, to full circle, to over here, to over there, to here, to now being one of the most influential women
that's a big...
that I've ever seen, ever met.
Wow.
Not only within the church, which is going on 15,000, approaching 20,000, moving to an entire new city.
Yeah, new region.
To
back to the Pacific Northwest.
Back to the Pacific
Northwest. So Boise,
Northwest.
Seattle, and Oregon, they're all the 3 biggest cities considered in the Pacific Northwest. So the fact that we're getting called back to the Pacific Northwest is wild. Like, just wild.
Wild to now start a whole Awaken movement in Boise, Idaho, that you, and then look at the leaders that you have brought up through the ranks here.
Yeah, that are going to actually grow the program after we leave.
That are actually going to grow. Yeah. The Pathfinder program when you're not here, which is already happening, even while you're here.
So amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
You see, I'm getting all riled up here. But I'm a part of, which you have no idea how I went from getting denied for the program.
Yeah, I remember that. So we didn't know you. We're like, who's this crazy guy?
Is that what you were thinking? Like, who's this meathead? What is this crazy guy? We don't even know this guy.
We didn't even know this guy. I mean, all the things. But I sent that picture so the core team all texted each other today, the regionals. Yeah. And, or I didn't send a picture, I just said it. But they were talking about 160 applications, like celebrating, and we have this and that. And I was like, yeah, I'm on my way to go see JD. Remember when we weren't sure if we should take him as an apprentice? And now he's like one of our best leaders. So I'm like, we need to have some very deep conversations of some of these applicants that we're not sure of.
Yeah, and it was Dr. Matt that overrode and pulled this pastor card, huh?
No, he just said that he would back you up. So we have the ultimate say,
yes.
But we're here to serve the campus pastors.
Yeah.
But, we have ultimate say of who gets into the program. But he was just like, no, just trust me. And he basically said, look, if he ends up, screwing up and being a jackwagon, it's on me. And so at that point, we're like, all right, well, then, if you want to take a risk, we'll take a risk. Like, we trust you, Dr. Matt. Like, we trust him.
Yeah, well, and the rest is history. You know what I'm talking about?
History. Yeah.
I can't tell you, Melissa. Melissa, and you did Colin finally play the voicemail from last Friday?
Not yet.
Gosh,
I know. I'm sorry.
Colin,
we've had so much going on, trying to launch a campus and do another conference in Salt Lake City this weekend.
That's it. That's all. I was all up in my feelings, and I left you guys a voicemail. All right, so let me just lay it out here. Because that got on me there, and I don't want to get on me here. I want to tell you how much that from the bottom of my heart, you and Colin, and yes, Jurgen, I can go on a whole nother separate thing with Jurgen, and I will when he's on here, by the way. But you guys have made an impact on my life.
Wow.
Like I can't even explain.
Wow.
The impact that you and Colin have had on my life, my family and I, my wife and I, my children. And then also all of the people that are in my life, Spencer, Luis, Chris, all these people, these guys that are in my life, that are in my journey now with this podcast, with Real Deal Sleep, the mattress company, with the other stuff that we have coming down the pike here that we're working on. You have completely changed the trajectory of my entire life. You because of the Pathfinder, because of Awaken, of course, but the Pathfinder program specifically.
Wow.
I can't even begin to tell you, Melissa, how happy I am or how grateful I am for you and Colin and what you have done and what you're doing for the church and how much respect I have for you guys and how much admiration. And to watch you guys pour your hearts out on stage, at your house, in our classes, on conference calls is something that is absolutely mind-boggling and incredible and just so amazing that I can't even describe this with words. I'm trying to. I really am.
Wow.
But I want you to know how special you guys are and the fact of how your journey came back to here and brought you into my life and my family's life. My wife and I, our life couldn't get better before Awaken, before
we
Pathfinders.
We adore Rachel. She's the best.
And with you guys, it has gotten 10 times better because now we are falling into our purpose.
Yeah.
Which is because of you guys.
Wow. Enlightening
us on what that even means. Right?
Amazing.
So Melissa, and I want to keep going here, and you're shutting me down, and I'm not going to tell you what time it is, otherwise you might be upset with me, but it's okay because it's JD. Remember, because you owed me one. You denied me from the program, so you owe me this extra time on this podcast.
Oh my gosh, you're amazing,
Melissa.
That's hilarious.
All right, finish, Melissa, by telling people. Give them one thing that you've learned at this point. Look at the blessings that look where you are now, influencing thousands and thousands and thousands of people that you don't even know.
Wow.
And wait till this story gets out on this podcast. Then people get to know you even more. They already love you. They already adore you. They already respect you. But when they hear the story and what you just told me, what you went through, what you've been through, man. So tell people right now that they're in a dark place right now. They need inspiration. They don't know what to do. Give them something. Let's leave on that. I'm going to hit them with something.
Yeah, I would just say don't quit and just continue the journey of inner healing. Like just dig deep, be transparent, be real with people. Talk to people, find somebody that you can tell everything to, and then really be like coachable and teachable to like do the hard work of getting healthy and getting healing and the painful work of getting healing and digging back up those things that were so traumatic. But the healing that can come from that and the pure joy and like that happiness again, like being happy in your soul can actually happen again, and it will happen again as you just continue on that healing and get in the right community with the right people.
On that note, it was when you went back to the church.
Yeah.
With Dwayne
and Joel. Yeah.
Which began your official healing.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this, I would say one of the best places to go, if not the best place to go, would be a church.
Yeah.
And
a good
more
church.
Specifically, a great church.
Yeah.
AKA Awaken Church.
Agree.
Which is unlike any, to get this Jersey meathead into church.
Actually like it.
And actually like it.
And now volunteer there.
Freaking love it. And volunteering 6 hours on a Tuesday away from my family with pleasure, with honor, with gratitude. Just think about that. Right? Just leave it right there. Then you know this is a special church. Right?
So true.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I don't even want to end this.
Thank you for having me, though. Such an honor.
Melissa, we love you from. I'll speak on everybody's behalf, and especially my wife and I and my family. We love you. We love Colin. Thank you for everything that you've done for us so far, and we're so excited to represent you when you're not here, which I'm not happy about right now, but I know that's a calling, and it is what it is. I'm losing my guy.
You'll come visit. We'll be back.
Ooh, I need to visit. All right. So, again, we appreciate you. We love you. Thank you for all you do. You are just a light for the world, and we're so happy that you are doing what you do, and for everything that you do. Ladies and gentlemen, Real Deal Talk. Melissa Higginbottom, the Queen, aka the Queen Bee of Pathfinders, and now Boise, Idaho. Real Deal Talk, that's a wrap. Let's go.